She's gonna be late.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Almost didn't have quorum.
Sure we did.
I said almost didn't.
Yeah, we had 4.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Ready? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 8:30. Any additions to or amendments to the agenda? No?
Not for me.
Okay. Delegations, Community Foundation, Southern Alberta. Alan.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Sorry.
He's just so,
Alan, why don't you get rolling? So we're rolling.
he's just excited.
All
for
in
the
favor?
presentation.
Gary, Community Foundation, Southeastern Alberta, Helen.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Helen Nicholson. I am the Regional Development Coordinator for the Community Foundation of Southeastern Alberta. I began with them on June 23rd of last year, so I'm just coming up on my. And I cover, I'm the traveling little person for the Community Foundation. So everything they do at the foundation, I do out in 3 of our regional rural areas, in which I'll talk about a little bit as we get going in the presentation. And Michelle is one of my committee members for the region of Prairie Crocus, which covers special areas 2, 3, 4, the MD of Acadia, Hanna, Oyen, and all the little municipalities within that. So it's a very large region that we have up here. So thank you for having us join you today and present on the Community Foundation. I'm not sure if any of you have, well, a few of you have heard the presentation over time. The Community Foundation is growing rapidly and expanding, and there's lots of exciting things going on. So we figured it was time to come out and share some stuff with you guys again. And to just make the connection, considering my face is new for some of you in the region. I'm not so new for others. Some people know me from, I used to live in Oyen for 23 years, and I was the FCSS director there from 1999 to 2007. So I do have family there, and I have lots of family connected to special areas up in this area as well. So rural is very important to me, and it's still a very strong passion of mine to ensure that our rural municipalities and regions are being taken care of. So I'm gonna go through a lot of talking for about 15 minutes here. And then if you guys have questions, we'll answer some questions. And I'm gonna give you the Community Foundation 101 version of who we are and what's going on. So the Community Foundation is a registered charitable organization that distributes funds throughout Southeastern Alberta. Our mission is to create meaningful connections between donors and charitable organizations, nonprofits that do the work in the rural areas and throughout Southeastern Alberta. What sets this Community Foundation apart from other charities is that when a gift is provided to us, it is never spent. Every donation is invested and for the long-term benefit of the communities, and it's the investment income that's generated from the donations and that go into our endowment. And that investment revenue is what we use to do the work that we do across Southeastern Alberta and keep our lights on. So this is the region of the Community Foundation of Southeastern Alberta. We have, as you can see, it's pretty much it's a large map, and so I cover the county of 40 Mile, Cypress County, and all the yellow special areas 2, 3, 4, MD of Acadia. And then we have another coordinator that is in the county of Newell, who covers, and Brooks, who covers that area there. So good. So right now there's about, we're over 200 community foundations across Canada. The Medicine Hat Community Foundation was established by John P. Ignatius back in the 1990s. And he wanted to make sure that he left a lasting legacy for the region. He really felt strongly that that people needed to have somewhere where they could continue to do their work and grow and thrive. John, some of you might know of his name. He actually had a ranch in the Jenner area, and he helped to establish the Jenner 4-H group way back when. He also had a farming ranch in Brooks, Cypress County. Yeah, he had about 4 or 5 of them, and so he did very, very well. And he decided that he wanted to start the foundation, and then he connected with all his friends, and they continued to grow the foundation. When he passed away, he left the majority of his estate to the foundation of over $2.4 million, which kept that endowment going. And as of today, that endowment is just under $28 million. Our overall endowment with the community foundation is just under $28 million. So it has done 10 years ago or 7 years ago, it was sitting at around 12, 13. So we've had a huge amount of growth within the last 10 years. And so we'll get into how we've achieved that. So we work on 3 pillars. We grow, we give, we inspire. The first one is we grow, and we do that exactly through what I just talked about, the endowment, growing our endowment fund. And that is multiple organizations, whether it's a family fund, a charity, or an agency, individuals, people just donate, and the donors rule. We follow what they want, and their wishes are always met. So we set up an agreement with each fund person, anybody who's creating a fund, and they tell us exactly how they want their money expensed and what they want it to look like, how much and then each year the interest revenue from their fund is pooled and used for either community grants or sent out based on their wishes, scholarships, those types of things. The agency endowments, we now have 24 agencies that have started their own agency endowment. And that's something new that we're just, well, it's been going on, but now we have this handy dandy little toolkit that we've created, and we can provide this to agencies as a step-by-step booklet as to how to set up an agency endowment. And there's a homework that needs to be done, and we say, make sure that you are sure you want to do this. It is a long-term plan. Endowments is not money that you need for operations and day-to-day. Once your money is in there, you can't pull it back out. So it's just that investment revenue that you will have. And then we have some philanthropy, family groups that do different things. And then currently we hold about 440 funds within the Community Foundation of Southeastern Alberta.
I mean, when you say it's a long-term plan, are you saying like 20 years before you begin to?
Oh, no, people will invest, and it takes about 18 months for that investment to start generating revenue. But unless you're putting in $1 million right away, you're not seeing lots. Right. So we follow CRA guidelines, and we have to disperse anywhere from 3 to 5% of every fund throughout the year.
Back into community,
back into the different things. So right now, I think we're just under 4% that we disperse out on each fund.
Thank you.
And we have an investment company that does all of our work. We are currently with Wheeler in Calgary, and they do all of our investment and take care of our portfolio. And then they write us a big check when we tell them that we need money to do what we need to do. So next, this is the development of the rural community funds. So back in 2018, a study was done where they went out and they spoke to the 4 different areas of the region to find out if it would be worth establishing community funds in the different regions. And the purpose of these is to allow people to give where they live and receive in the area in which they live, work, and play. And so monies that are provided to each of these rural funds support that area. So currently, right now, this area is covered with the Prairie Crocus Fund. And that fund is just at just under $59,000 currently that we have raised in that fund. And we have granted out $425,000 across this region since that establishing the Prairie Crocus Fund in 2018. So they've been very busy giving. We've got to get a little bit more with growing.
So what does that encompass then? The Prairie Crocus Fund, that's Hanna and.
It is special areas 2, 3, 4, MD of Acadia and everything that falls within that. So Hanna, Oyen, veteran, like all of it, concert.
Slide on page 5 shows it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very large area, and special areas 4 has just been brought in as of December last year. As we were having conversations with them, they asked us, well, why isn't it included? And we said, well, that's a really good question. And somehow it was missed in our act. So we've had to go through a whole bunch of government stuff and get that all amended. So now special areas 4 is part of our area as well. And then the other regions all follow the same suit. They each have a fund that is created, and these can change very rapidly. So currently, I'll give you the example of 40 Mile. They were sitting at about, slowly building their fund at about between $50,000 and $70,000 when I started. And last fall, they received a bequest from an area rancher that had no family, and $440,000 that got dumped into that fund. So their fund is now sitting over $550,000. That specific bequest will support the village foremost youth and recreation. So again, it's donors' wishes are very specific. In the Prairie Crocus region, we were fortunate enough to have one of the wind companies, a couple of the wind companies come on and do some stuff with us as well. Those funds aren't showing in here right now because they decided to do a separate kind of stream, and we'll build on that. So we give. So we do this through what people know most from us is the community grants. So in the spring and the fall, we hold grant cycles. So the spring one opens in early February, closes. One opens August, closes September 15th. And these are for charities, nonprofits, and organizations within the region to apply to us to support their causes and the needs that they are doing within their communities. We did provide you with a little summary sheet, and that does show all of the grants and stuff that have gone out to the area. And since we've started, there have been some received here in the Hanna area. And if people, currently we can only provide dollars to charities, but if they are not a charity, they can have an affiliate such as their municipality, school division, or a church, another charity they can affiliate with as well. And that still allows them to apply for funding. And then we write the check to whoever their affiliate is, and their affiliate gets the money to that local organization. So we work really hard to make sure that we can get the dollars to the people that need it and stuff. So that's really important for us. We also have a number of scholarships that are developed through the Community Foundation. The Community Impact Award is a one-time award that organizations can apply for new and innovative projects. And that is awarded one time a year to one organization for $25,000. And that one just went to Medicine Hat It was a very tight competition, this year. They had a lot of difficult decisions between the top three. And it is to start to create, community organization or community neighborhood, organizations within Medicine Hat so that they can build neighborhood associations and do different things within the city. So we'll see how that goes. And then the emergencies, that's when we see dollars such as, during COVID, they would use the community foundations to get the dollars out to the different organizations by them applying to the community foundation. We just were that funnel for getting dollars through. And then Youth and Philanthropy is a youth initiative that we do, and we work with youth groups throughout southeastern Alberta. The majority of them are in school, but we've started to see some 4-H groups. We've had one church group along the way. And this project, we take them through the world of philanthropy and granting. So they create a group within the school. They have a team lead within the school, and then they need to do research on all the local charities and organizations within their area. They connect with those organizations and they find out if they were to receive money, what would they use it for? They have all of those discussions. We have a fund at the Community Foundation, the Youth and Philanthropy Fund, and so we give them the money. So this year we had 9 schools involved, and each of them were able to give out $1,200 each. Some of them chose one charity, some of them chose two charities, and we're just in the process of distributing that now. And the youth are the ones that actually present the check to the charity. So it's a really nice process for them to learn about philanthropy and giving and the needs that are right there within their community.
Excuse me, so have all the schools within your region been contacted regarding that youth philanthropy?
We do send out a thing to all of the schools usually in late January or in January. We try to hit them all. But if you guys have schools, and this is where connecting and doing these presentations are really, really great for us, because you are the eyes and the ears, you know the people, you are connected to your area. If we're missing something, just fire an email off to us or connect with Michelle, because she's here in Hanna, and just say, hey, would like to make sure that this school is involved or they need information. We'll do a presentation, we'll send out the packages, and we work with them all the way along it.
So their
that they
group
can.
has to be established before you make the presentation, or not necessarily?
Nope,
So
nope.
has Hanna been?
I contacted them.
Okay.
They didn't do it though.
Yeah. Yeah, and it would say, oh, I don't have that paper. Yeah, yeah, it's on there, the ones that have been involved so far in this region since it was first established. So this is just where we're at with the Prairie Crocus Fund at this time. I kind of talked about this a little bit. This is who is on the committee at this point in time. Michelle is our only one from Hanna and within Special Areas 2 area. And so we are now in the process of building out this committee, because when I started, it seemed to be very heavy in one area, and I'm like, that doesn't represent the region. And so we are working really hard to get down into those deep pockets of rural, and have people come on board with us to be part of our committee. It's we are pretty flexible and easygoing committee, right? And you know, it's people can provide where their passions lie. They can give what they want to give. Not everybody wants to sit around a table at a meeting, but they're really good at connecting within their communities and doing different things in the background or coming to different events or those types of things. So we meet people where they're at. Everybody is welcome, and we also have a virtual option for every meeting. So if people don't want to travel, they can join virtually. And as we grow out, we'll start rotating our meetings.
Is there, for the community grants, is there a minimum and a maximum?
Yes. So depending on what you want, playgrounds and those types of recreation structures are only $2,400 maximum that we can do. Any capital, projects is a maximum of $10,000. And if you're starting a new, program or initiative, you can, receive up to $25,000. And each year, I think I talked about the vital signs here. Yeah, so I'll wait and I'll talk about that next. Yeah, so in each year, we do what is called the vital signs. Or not each year, every couple of years, I guess they do it. So they do a survey out in the region. And it is to get a pulse on your community as to what the needs and concerns are within each community and rural area. This was done in the spring of last year. And it had some decent response, but not enough to really capture. So now we are taking the information from this and we will go out to each of the regions now and start to have what's called vital conversations. So we'll be planning them with different organizations and groups in the fall to come out and really get a good grasp on what's going on within the communities in areas such as housing, mental health, belonging to your community, those types of different things. And really take a deep dive, and hopefully we can come up with the top 3 issues in kind of each area and dwindle it down. And then what we do with that is it helps us to determine what priorities we need to look at for our next grant cycles. If something is really high, food security has been really high for a number of years now. So we see a lot of food banks, doing applications, on year after year, just to keep their food security in place. And then, we also will, this book is generated again every 2 years. And so this is, I've left a couple here for you guys. This is really great, for you guys to get a good snapshot of kind of what we've heard is happening. All of this, our documents are also available on our website. You can download them from the website.
Excuse me, so will you work with other organizations within that community, say for economic development? If they're looking at something that fits within there, like say housing or?
Yes, we've been invited to the table on a number of the different regions just to learn about what some of the housing issues and stuff are. As we grow in the community foundation, what we're wanting to do is figure out how can we really support different communities? How can we engage with them so that, you know, is there an opportunity for us to offer small little mini grants or dollars for seed funding for them to get XYZ done, those types of things. So we're looking at doing different things. And so a lot of that stuff will start probably kind of fall, spring 2025. We'll be looking at doing some of that stuff. So definitely links we work with for a number of different things. We're always in conversation with Dory and definitely Michelle being on the board. Our committee helps because she can help to identify definitely stuff in Hanna and we can get information out. And then when we come out and do planning, or if any organization wants more information, just reach out to us and we will do a presentation specifically to your organizations, so that you can learn about the community foundation. And that way you can ask more specific questions in relation to your organization or what the need is that you are looking at.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Community leave? No, there wasn't much else on that. We're good. So this initiative, I just wanted to touch on because I'm not sure if anybody has heard about it. This is something that is going on this year within it's a kind of a branch off of the Community Foundation, and it's called the Top 7 Over 70. And so what we are looking for is to have nominations of individuals who have, made remarkable achievements or contributions in different respective fields, such as, I just need to find what they are here. Oh, yeah. Oh, science, literature, sports, agriculture, and philanthropy and arts. So, but the kicker to this one is it has to have started after the age of 70. So it isn't people who have been doing lifetime work and are now over the age of 70 and we want to honor them. These are people who have decided that I'm gonna retire and, oh, nah, retirement isn't for me, and they've started some new initiative. So maybe they've gone into the arts or written a book or, you know, got involved and started a new community organization or something like that. So what they're trying to do is find 7 people from across the region of southeastern Alberta that can be nominated, and those people will be celebrated at a gala event at Medelton Medicine Hat on October 10th. So it's just another way of us celebrating the individuals within our region. And especially those who aren't afraid to take on something new after the age of 70.
So how are these presentations made then? Do you have to write a letter? Or do these people?
For the
individual that's over 70?
So on the website, there's a tab on there that is specifically top 7 over 70. So one of the things is that we are learning that our rural individuals are very humble and they do not want to be recognized and raised up. So the first step is if you identify an individual, make sure that individual wants to be nominated. And then the nomination forms and everything are on the website. That nomination goes in, they write a little thing, and then as part of the celebration, they will create a little video with that individual and they'll tell their story, and that's what part of the celebration will be. Okay. You. Next one. So this is who's at the Community Foundation. So Chris Christie, some of you may know her. She was the director of the Community Foundation for a number of years. And she has stepped in because Nikki has gone off on maternity leave. And so Chris is taking her role until next January. And which was great for the Community Foundation because nobody really missed a step. We didn't have to worry about training anybody and things just carried on. Lauren Friesen does all the vital signs research and does a lot of our website work. And she's the project coordinator for any of the annual report and vital signs, those types of things that we do. Barb keeps us on track with our finances. Sydney is everything grants related and community engagement. She also heads up the connecting for the youth and philanthropy program. Rianne is, we need to put her name on there. Just new, she just started last week with the Community Foundation, and she comes with rural roots as well because she was raised in the Altario area, went to Altario school. So we are excited to have her. As I mentioned, I cover the 3 regional areas, and then Nicole is the one in Brooks.
We don't have you on there, Michelle.
She is on the advisory. She's on the advisory committee. Yeah.
So when you get your applications, who is on the decision making?
So
allocation and such.
the way the application process works now is any applications that come in from, say, the Prairie Crocus region, go to the advisory committee in Prairie Crocus. They do an online evaluation of every application, and then we come together and we go through every grant again. And they decide whether it's full funding, partial funding, or no funding. Sometimes the no funding is just because when they're prioritized, there's just not enough dollars to go around. So, and because some years we've been averaging 6 or 7 applications, with each grant cycle that we've been doing. That's why there's a significant amount of money that's gone out to the region. And so it comes to the advisory committee. They make, their decisions and recommendations. Those recommendations then go into the grants committee that's, in Medicine Hat. And they go through them and they do the final stamp as to how much money can go out based on the dollars that are available. The advisory committees are very key in the rural areas and their voices are heard at that grants committee table in Medicine Hat. They cannot veto or argue that this grant is important for the rural area. Their decision is how much money can we actually give them.
Yeah. So the actual explanation has to come through the grant application.
Yes, yeah, and we encourage people to, when they're applying for an application, have as much contact with myself and Sydney as possible. We will walk you through that grant step by step by step and give you little keywords and do things with you to ensure that we know exactly what's going on. We've had conversations with you. You have to remember the people at the grants table haven't had the conversations with you. So we try to bring as much information as we can, but the more information that can jump off the pages so that the committee members can make a decision is works best.
Yeah, we were, the Hanna Roundhouse Society was fortunate enough and I did the application and such, so, and it was very well. I just wasn't sure, 2019, it's been a few years since.
It would have been,
And it was, yeah, it was probably one of the first.
it would have been one of the first. Yeah.
And so it was very well received, the groups, the individuals were wonderful to address and deal with and such. So yeah, it was very,
Yeah.
very well.
And myself as the rural coordinator, I'm here to support rural. So whether it's an email from Kim, letting me know some of the stuff that's going on, or, you know, anybody within the region, it's really important for me to hear from the people that live in the area so that we know what we need to be doing from the foundation level in that area. We're trying to work with all the new renewable energy companies that are in the areas, wind and solar, to look at long-term sustainability. We don't, and my first thing when I have a conversation with any of them is, if you're given to the community right now, keep doing that. Do what they need to do for the here and now, but would you be interested in a long-term plan and potentially creating an endowment plan thing with us? So what's happened in the Prairie Crocus region, which many of you probably have heard about, was Pattern Energy has done the Landfind Wind project there, and they have pledged $1 million over the next 19 years. So each year we'll get an installment of approximately $75,000. And with that, what they have decided to do, because donors rule, they have established 2 scholarship funds for students graduating out of South Central High School. They have established their own grant cycle. However, it is for the regions in which they worked. So it is only for those in special areas 3, Town of Oyen and MD of Acadia. And then they will grow their fund. And as their fund grows, the dollars in their grant cycle will grow. So, we're hoping by the time we connect with all the wind and solar companies that all of this region and all regions will be covered with those long-term sustainability plans.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's
Giving back to the community, which is a great benefit.
well, and like I said, a lot of them come in and they drop dollars into your communities right here now, and then they leave and you don't know if you're ever going to hear from them again. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? Your stuff is still around.
I was just gonna say,
So
they're there.
they're there,
They're there.
and we understand that it's a controversial thing. We don't get into the politics of it. We're just another option. And so I guess that's what I will leave you with, is that the Community Foundation is not here to compete with other organizations, other fundraisers, those types of things. We are another option for long-term sustainability and planning.
So Helen, do you find that like everything else, oversubscribed? Like lots of requests and,
Oh, yeah, yeah, we usually receive probably, well. Last fall, we received 4 times the amount of requests that we were able to fund. This spring, investments have done really well. And out of, I think the 38 applications that we received, 35 of them were funded.
Okay.
And the ones that weren't were because they just didn't fit, they didn't do their homework, or they were people coming from this Calgary, Edmonton, saying that they were bringing projects into the communities, but they had never spoke to anybody in the actual community. And so we just take them off the table. If you can't prove that you've actually connected with somebody in that community and created a partnership, then we're not giving you dollars.
So if you apply once, how long before you can apply again? 5 years?
You can
A
apply
year?
anytime
Every
you
year?
want. All we have to have is if an organization applies and receives funding, before we can give you funding in the next cycle, your final report has to be completed. Yeah, so people, this is why we see people applying over and over again. But what we also say, if you're applying for the same organization, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm taking up.
No,
all
you're
time.
good.
If you're applying for the same organization, please show us that how the need has grown, how the impact has increased. We need to see some kind of growth and development in your program, or you're adding on to the program or doing something else. You've got more people attending, so thus you need extra dollars, those types of things. So that's where it becomes very, very crucial to be having conversations with us at the Community Foundation, is if you're if you're applying for a number of different things or the same thing over and over again, we have to see some change, some growth. And if you can only do, if you're an organization and you have 3 projects, you need to pick which one you want to do, because you can only put 1 application in per grant cycle.
And it can't be the same project every application. Like if you're not successful in the first one, can that same same project be submitted again?
It can, but you might want to have a conversation with us first to find out why it was declined. It could be just because there was a few things that were missing. We always let people know whether they're approved or declined, and then we will offer information if they want it as to how we can work with them or things that they could do differently. Some just don't want it and they're just like, no, that's okay. And others are quite keen to take that information so that they can always improve. As a grant writer for 20+ years, I always welcomed the information, because I needed to know what I did or what I missed that I could do better next time. So hopefully people take it as it's meant, as a positive.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have a few questions.
I was gonna say.
Nobody else does. So are you still looking for more committee members from the Hanna area? Like, I know you had your list there of 6 or 8. I didn't know if there was in terms of reference that you needed a max of 2 or.
No.
So
We need more.
what's the process if someone was interested in wanting to sit on the committee?
So the process is that person needs to connect with me, and I always connect with the chair of the organization. I will have a conversation with them and let them know about the committee, and send them the annual report, vital signs, a few things. We'll send an email out to them. They can read that information, and if they are interested, we have a little 1-page application that they would fill in with their name and information. That gets fired back to me, that tells me that yes, they want to be on the committee. I send them a code of conduct and an oath of confidentiality, and they sign that and send it back to me, and boom, you're on the committee.
So you guys in your organization must have some social media templates that we could maybe use or share on our social media that says the Community Foundation Southeastern Alberta is looking for committee members? Like, do you have some stuff that we could
I
either
do.
share
Yep, the other
and
thing.
try and get the word out to our
Yes.
residents who might be interested in sitting there?
Yep, so we also have a Facebook page for the Prairie Crocus Fund. And all of that stuff goes on there,
Okay.
so
Broader than social media.
Broader than social media. If I know who to send stuff to or something, who to send items
Michelle
to,
can get you that info
Yeah,
for sure.
then we can definitely,
Okay.
anything that we're doing, and I think it's really important, again, social media doesn't work for everybody. There's a lot of people that have jumped off social media. So that's where we now need those different connectors, and how do we get the information to the different areas? And that's a big thing for us.
Because my assumption, again, looking at the Prairie Crocus region, for whatever reason, I think partly it seems to be eastern focused.
It has been, yeah.
And I think my assumption around that was partly because the eastern portion of special areas and medicine have more of a connection, like
Yeah.
that's their route, that's where they go, they're more involved. And then obviously, I think looking at the board members, they have a
Yep.
significant amount of people from the eastern part of special areas on there. So
Yep.
what I would like to see happen is grow more awareness of the Prairie Crocus Fund here. Grow more awareness of needing some committee members, growing more awareness of groups that could use funding, that could submit applications. So I'd like to work through that, and I'll use an example. Here, we've got a not-for-profit community garden society. And they've got a project they're looking at doing in terms of irrigation, might fit perfectly well.
Yep.
With this. They would probably have to, I don't know their connection. I know they're not a charity, so they'd have to have us stand
an
up for
affiliate,
them
yeah.
as an affiliate, but an opportunity to get some dollars towards that project. And I know there's lots of our user groups that could use dollars.
Yeah.
And just being aware of the process. So one of the things, and I might have our Michelle talk to Michelle and just see if we could set up a grant presentation night here. And
Yep.
invite our local organizations to attend, to learn more about the fund and how they apply and that type of thing. So.
Yes, and that would be really, really helpful, and we've talked about that a little bit in the areas too, because what we know in rural is it's a lot of the people are on multiple committees, and so to go to each organization, we're gonna be talking to, probably somebody is gonna hear the presentation 10 times. So I've looked at that in the other areas, is how do we bring everybody together, have one presentation, and then if the organization wants something more, we can work with them more closely. But I think that would be a valuable piece to do.
Some exposure and.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not gonna get an argument from me around the committee structure, because that was the first thing that I said is like, this does not work. No. And so we have been, I was actually just in contact with somebody within special areas in this region and stuff as well. We need to fill up this area and get people from this area along, the 36 and veteran and all up in there and all of this, but it would be nice to have a couple more people from Hanna specifically, and have the municipalities themselves really supported and have that connection within the municipalities, because we do see that. There is no limit as to how many people I will take on the committee. We do, they say, when they started it 5 years ago, they thought, well, if they could get 8 to 10 people, that would be great. What we are learning again in rural is, we're gonna have people that are, as I mentioned, sit at the table, do different things. So if it ends up that we have a committee of 20 people, we'll have a committee of 20 people to cover the areas that we need to cover.
How often are the meetings?
Meetings are maximum of 6 per year. And two of them are grant cycles, where we do the grant, decisions. And those ones, we do try to get people, to attend in person. Michelle often will attend, virtually, and then she'll come when she can, because she gets to go do a little visit in that area. But they have been predominantly in the Oyen area, but I'm gonna start shifting them. So we will work as the committee grows and shifts, the meetings are gonna shift.
Don't you also have a grant writing program?
Yes,
Workshop?
a workshop. So every grant cycle, we kick off the grant cycle with a workshop at noon. So any organization that is wanting or thinking of submitting an application, they just have to register for that grant writing workshop. It's from noon till 1. And they can learn about the process, and then that way it helps them to figure out, oh, am I ready? Am I not ready? What do I need to do? As people start to do this and they learn that our grant cycles are in the spring and the fall, I always tell people, do your homework ahead of time so that you are ready when it opens, because you've only got about a month to get that application in. And when the deadline closes at 4 o'clock, that's it. It's closed.
I remember drawing
yeah.
a medicine hat.
Yeah, you can now,
Take a picture.
we do now have a portal. We actually have a system where all applications are done online now. With that being said, so you don't have to drive to Medicine Hat anymore to drop it off. That being said, we do recognize that a lot of the grassroots organizations, don't have access to maybe internet, or it's some of the more mature generation that don't want to sit in front of a computer and stuff. We will set up a meeting with them, and they can dictate and talk, and we will type all the information up and put it in the actual program for them. They can do a verbal application, and we will get it all put in there, and that way it's done.
So when I look at this form, you've got listed from 2019 down. I'm assuming 2019 to 2023, that's the full year's worth of applications?
Yes.
And this is just.
This is
spring?
just this spring, yeah.
Okay, and then when would the fall grant deadline or?
It'll open in August, probably about the first week in, probably just after the long weekend, that first week in August, it'll open up.
Okay.
With the grant writing, so I'll get the information out as to when that workshop will be. And it will close September 15th. I think that it might be 4:30 now, but yeah, September 15th. Yeah, and I would love to see more and more applications coming from the other areas. There are so many wonderful causes and groups and things out there, and everybody is requiring, and hopefully, you know, with that, as I said, we're doing really good with the giving. We need to start growing that endowment, or the Prairie Crocus Fund as well. Because the hope of that fund is, the ultimate hope is in all of these regional areas is to build that fund enough so that when organizations are applying within the regions, it is the dollars from those funds that is going back out. Right now, it's all the funds pooled from the $27 million and the money that we get off of that. It's all those funds that are pooled together to support all applications coming through. But eventually, we're hoping that the funds will be large enough on their own to be a granting stream on their own. So some work.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. I've learned a lot. I had no idea about this being, I'm surprised. I am just learning about it now, and it's been in place since at least 2019 that we see.
It has, and the community foundation itself has been around for, I think it's 33 years now. But what's 5 years, you know, it's always had a rural component, but not really pushed out into the region because it was only a staff of 2 or 3 people for the first 20 years. And so now with the regional coordinations and the regional development, it's taking on a life of its own, and a lot of the dollars that are coming in now are and have grown that fund have been from rural. So it's very important for us to be in the rural areas, making sure that the organizations are receiving the dollars back.
And the staff component, the administrative component, I guess, is funded how?
It is funded through each fund that is created. We have a 1% admin fee that we charge.
Okay. So 1%.
1%, yeah.
Wow, that's.
Yeah. And then we have they've created a little operating kind of fund thing. Yeah, there's different things, but that's how everything that happens in the community foundation is that 1% admin fee. Or a donor saying, you know what, you guys really need to keep your lights on. Here's this amount of money. Do that. So when they'll create a fund for that. So,
It's really amazing.
yeah.
So hearing no other questions, can we get a motion to thank Helen and Michelle for coming in and presenting the Community Foundation Southeast Alberta for us to do for information? Council Warwick, I think you got your hand up. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies, appreciate it, good information. And yeah, it's one of those things that you hear about and you just kind of, it's over there. And so, yeah, I think we do something here, need some proactive.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think we've been quiet long enough. It's now time to make some noise. So, thank
That's
you.
where the funds from the West Met solar projects.
Well, they're looking at that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not having much luck connecting with them, so, we'll keep working on that.
Okay, well, they haven't started the
No.
construction
Yeah,
yet. so-
Yeah, I
My understanding, I think it's supposed to be fairly soon, but
When I met with them, they actually had mentioned your group as well, so that's,
yeah, so when they're ready, and I know they've got some groundwork and stuff to do, and is there a wind project going up? I seen a bunch of wind turbine stuff as I was coming up, or is it just?
there's a couple, there's Blue Earth has got a project south of town. TransAlta has got a project northeast of town. And the second one north of town is, I should know this. I'll get you some contacts.
Are they Hanna area, or are they within special areas then?
well, all of these projects are within special
Within
areas.
Special areas, yeah, okay. Cause I have some information from them, but yeah. Just share our stuff,
Okay,
and we'd
yeah.
be willing to have any conversation, just to let them know this is what we can do. They can take it or leave it.
Yeah, and I know just back to the Sheerness Solar, we did have a group that worked with PACE for a couple of meetings on how they were allocating it. Our recommendation from the group was to look at the foundation. It was already there, it was already established, they had their processes versus money being given to another group in town to then try and distribute out. So I know it's probably gone a little bit slower than we'd hoped, but I think the project has been a little bit slower taken off too, so. But hopefully that, and again, that provides not necessarily the immediate jump, but it does provide the long-term endowment fund generated off of the interest, so.
Yeah, we're very patient at the Community Foundation because we know it is a very slow process. It is all about relationship building, and that takes time.
Yeah.
And so that can't be rushed. So we do what we need to do.
So those that do actually donate get a tax receipt as well.
Yes, everybody who donates gets a tax receipt. And you can donate, designate your donation specifically to the Prairie Crocus Fund. Well, you can designate it however you want, and then we can ensure that it's being.
You can, my understanding is you can specifically detail it right down to the Prairie Crocus Fund, to the town of Hanna.
Yeah.
To a specific, whether it's youth or whether
Yep.
it's seniors.
You
You
can.
can put all those criteria around it.
Yeah, and if you're not 100% sure, just connect with us and Barb will make sure your donation goes exactly where you want it to go.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
We don't have organizations like the wind, like TransAlta, doesn't have anything that they're giving back with all their windmill projects, so are they? Like, not like, not Pace, but Pattern Energy.
I haven't heard of anything that specific in this region.
Mr. Dakota,
Oh,
nobody.
But if that is,
I think
you know.
you say, oh, same bridge or like a bright colors, yeah, very,
It's all about springs.
spring.
Yeah, I guess then that's directly. Versus, thank you, Mark.
thank you, sir.
No, it's
No.
superficial.
There's so much tape here.
It's like this, never doing this all over. Mr. Dakota, would you like to?
Want me to wait till Sandra gets back, or do you wanna?
Yeah, we'll give her 10 seconds.
Give her a second. She's just going for one?
Yeah.
Think about it. It's even not even.
There you go, buddy.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me come and give an update. I didn't prepare anything special. I just thought I'd bring in the latest newsletter that we sent out I don't know, a few weeks ago or so. It kind of captures some of the work we've been doing, obviously, and some of the key projects we have on the go. So I thought I would just kind of go over that, speak to those projects, and then just open it up, and you guys can hammer away and ask me questions and just have a discussion. So so the three key areas, as you know, for Harvest Sky: investment attraction, resident attraction, and tourism, haven't changed. So everything kind of falls under those three categories. Investment attraction initiatives, as you guys are aware, we've had lots of discussions with lots of companies over the last year or two. Over 100 companies we've chatted with about locating in our area, primarily the Special Areas Industrial Park. So I'll just kind of give a update on the park as I know it. They started to move dirt, or either last week or this week. Yeah. So they're going to start with site grading, site work, and then eventually get to, in the last meeting we had, there's some kind of falcon or hawk or something nesting in the area, so they have to move their equipment around based on which tree the hawk lands in. It's kind of interesting, but so anyway, they're site grading, site work, and then there's also the storm or the retention pond where they'll have quite a substantial amount of water to feed the park. So they've started on that work. We've talked to, again, a lot of companies about interest in the park and locating there. And we actually had, so we put out a request for expressions of interest, our FEOI. Yeah, our RFP, RFEOI.
I think it's RFEIO.
Yeah. Anyway. We put that out a while back. We had a couple of solid submissions. So we met with two companies over the last, I think the last one was just last week. Anyway, obviously confidential what their business is. I can say they're both in kind of the energy space, and very solid proposals to locate in the park, and the timelines line up very nicely with the park. So the park, the earthwork they're doing and putting in, they'll be putting in water line and power line down the middle of the park. So they're proposed, the park should be up and ready, I think either this fall or certainly early spring. Of course, depending on how everything goes.
Where's this park located?
Oh, sorry, just south of the Sheerness power plant.
Well, the old racetrack was, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, so it's a very advantageous location.
Yeah.
When Special Areas started to do their site mapping, really why they started was they had been approached a few years ago by that waste medical waste company. So they were looking for a spot, quote unquote, in the middle of nowhere, right, for medical waste incineration. But when they started doing their investigation, they found that with the way the water works through the irrigation systems, the power, the natural gas, all the services, that area really nicely. And has the advantage of not having a lot of close neighbors. So whether it's power production like hydrogen or waste to energy or any of those ones, it's a really advantageous spot for some of the companies that are showing interest. So anyway, the two companies, one emailed an MOU, I think it was last week. So they're dealing now primarily with special areas because it is a special areas project. I am still involved, but you know, at some point I basically do a handoff to them because it's their land, it's their park. So
So the land that they're looking at, is that one particular lot within the park, or is it multiple, or is that,
the companies,
yeah?
each one's a little different, depends on their requirements. So the park itself primarily is divided into, I think, 30 to 40 acre lots. And I didn't bring a map, but it's basically if you come off Highway 36, the quarter section is right there. Yeah, thanks, Lori. The maps in
And
there.
then there's about 4.
Yeah.
How many lots?
What did they
I thought there was
originally?
6 or 8.
6 or 8.
6 or 8, I think, 6 in my mind.
Yeah, so you can see
Well,
that
40
red-
acres would be 9.
Yeah, so is
Yeah.
it, but there isn't.
So anyway, you come off the highway and you would go back up. So the road through the lots would be a north-south road up the middle, and that's where they'll lay the power and the water lines. So it'll feed all the different, there you go. Feed all the different lots in that. And then there's also room for expansion and stuff later on. So yeah, the one with the pink, yeah.
Thank you.
So again, the companies will each have different land requirements, and special areas is willing to subdivide lots depending on the needs. But the land is actually even the slide after it. Yeah. The land is very favorably priced at this point. It's basically they're talking ag land values, which in comparative terms to industrial developments in cities is astronomically
Yeah.
cheaper. So, you know, a company might only need 10 acres, but you know, they could buy a 40-acre lot and have room if they need it for
And how
future.
much are the lots priced at?
Roughly right now it's about $2,000 an acre.
Same as-
Sorry,
About the same as good farmland.
well, at ag prices, yeah, yeah.
But this is native
Grass.
native pasture.
It is, yeah, and so they're not, special areas isn't gonna turn
It's not
earthwork
gonna
on
be
all the
like
lots, they'll leave it as grassland. Until such time as a company actually wants to locate there. So they're gonna do the road up the middle and the servicing and the, like I said, the water retention pond and that kind of stuff, so it'll be turnkey for a company to come in and set up shop there.
I thought there was an area on there that was actually, there was like a dugout or a slough in there. Is that going to be?
That's the water retention pond will be just to the north.
Yeah.
Oh, so that'll be retained, just left as it is then, or?
Well, they'll feed that. Oh, you mean is there currently one? I'm not sure how that fits in the plans.
Okay.
They're building a
There's some-
water retention to feed, so they'll feed it down from the power plant. And it'll connect, they'll have a holding pond there, and then it'll also connect in with what's the irrigation system, whatever's there. Berry Creek or Dead Fish, or I can't remember,
Sounding good, isn't it?
maybe, I don't know. So it all form part of the system. The nice part, again, not just affordable land, but there's not gonna be any site levies for the original work because this is all paid for by the Prairies Can, by that coal transition funding. The same it's paying for your downtown project. So it's again really advantageous to companies that they don't have to pay a levy. So cheap land and no, other than normal property taxes, no extra taxes for the park. So that's our basic selling feature other than everything else that goes with it. So yeah, we've had lots of good conversations. We really feel that, you know, once you get one company set up there, then it'll start to domino. You get for example, if you had a waste to energy provider, well, they'll want an offtake for their energy. So then maybe a greenhouse or something else sets up. So you get one there, odds are and you keep working and advertising, that you'll get more and more and more, so.
And theoretically, you could end up with several hundred people working in that area. And the offshoot would be food,
Oh, yeah.
right? You could end up with a bunch of food truck companies or other ways to actually reverberate off of all these people who need to eat and.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the challenge that would happen, it's one of those catch-22s, is if you do have 50 people, 100 people, 200 people working out there, where are they gonna live?
Yeah,
Oh,
now housing becomes a
totally.
problem.
And
Yeah.
then housing's a problem, right?
But, yeah,
So,
that's a problem I'd rather have.
Yeah.
Than the other
and
option.
too many houses available, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of places that insurance.
Yeah, and speaking of workers, so like I received another site selection request that I have to submit for. It's for a data center, which is one of the things that we targeted originally for this area. The remoteness, but also cheap land and everything that we can benefit or, I mean, they're looking at any place in North America, so. But there's a
But
hundred,
close to fiber optic is huge for data centers.
yeah, fiber optic, redundancy, safe area, you know,
safe
no
area.
tornadoes and earthquakes and all the other stuff that a data center would want.
Yeah.
But they also are looking at 100 employees, so 100 tech type employees and then, you know,
You'll
so.
have families and.
Yes, they'll end up next to probably a big center, but we still submit because at the very least, it's good marketing for our area. For a company like that, maybe they have a small project that they're looking for a home for, so.
So Mark, I don't know if you can answer this question, but the companies that did, put the expression of interest in on the park, or were they looking at one parcel, two parcels? Like, did they get into the definitions, whether they wanted 30 acres, 40 acres, 80 acres?
It'd be one or under,
Okay, so
under 40
under 40K.
to start anyway.
Yeah,
And the one for sure is scalable. So if their business takes off, they can grow with it. So, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with investment attraction. There's always lots of conversations happening, as you know, with economic development. Conversations we have this year and last year might happen 5 years from now, and it's just the way economic development is, but there is lots of stuff happening behind the scenes. I'll skip down tourism and community engagement. Again, we continue to work with the Roundhouse on their project. The Nickelback tour, where I'm at with that one, I've reached out to through the band's lawyer again. I haven't heard back from him for quite some time, so I'm gonna see how that goes. But I actually have a meeting with Insight, the marketing company we've been using, tomorrow. And I think what I'm gonna do, with or without Nickelback, because we still want to do the tour in town with the signage. So I'm gonna see if Insight can give us a proposal to design all the signage that we would use. And at least have that ready to go, so that we could get the tour around town. And then anything over and above, the tour, would be, you know, up to a business or Nickelback or something to see what other level, but at the very least, there is the tour opportunity to get people throughout town, downtown, and then looking at the murals and that kind of stuff, so.
Speaking of signage, I see Nickelback's back on.
Yeah.
Signs. It's almost an insult. You can't read it unless you're going 30 kilometers an hour. Then you've got to stop to read them. Like,
Oh, I haven't even seen them yet.
they're only maybe 4-inch letters.
no, I think there were 8 or 9 inch
And where are
letters.
they at?
On the.
On the inside.
So there, we need more signage and stuff in town to whet people's appetite, so. Yeah, and we continue, or this year again, we're managing the visitor center. Got Shayla Brown, did a really great job managing it last year. She's back. We've hired our staff. We were successful in getting a portion of our Canada Summer Jobs grant out there, not all of our requests, but at least a portion of it. So that'll help with our bottom line out there, and ice cream sales have taken off again, so.
Yeah. We tested it out already, brought the grandkids over.
Nice,
Yep.
good.
I didn't know it was open.
You saved yourself a few days of.
No,
Oh, he's been-
I'm a frequent flyer.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Having it that close to the shop.
Exhibition 31, we had another board meeting last night. We're at the point of looking, as you know, for a parcel of land, so everything, I don't wanna say everything's on hold, but basically now we need a confirmed site to then be able to go out and start fundraising for the project and stuff. So we're gonna start having conversations with landowners in the next few weeks.
As close to town as possible, right? Or in town?
Yes.
In-
Yeah, our identified sites so far are all within municipal limits. If those don't work out, but one of our criteria for a site is to be within a few kilometers of Hanna if possible. Yeah. So, yeah, so that project's still got momentum. There's lots of information on the Exhibition 31 website. All the meeting minutes, the studies, are all posted on there. So if people really want to do a deep dive into the project, you can spend lots of time reading everything that's on the website. Resident attraction and community development. I know you guys are going ahead with your downtown project. That's exciting. The community kitchen projects are basically wrapped up. I know there's some tweaks in the Hanna project to as people use the facility. I know Stage Hanna, I was in there when Trina was using it and it seemed very positive. She had positive things to say. Anything like that, you're always gonna have feedback and little tweaks as you move along, but I think it's worked out fairly well so far. Youngstown, still a couple of bumps on the road in that one we gotta work through, but we'll get there. The immigration program continues to be busy. I get approached on a regular basis with either employers or potential candidates that want to move here for a job. We've approved, or I've sent out probably 25 to 30 candidate endorsement letters, which is a potential employee. And we've approved, I don't know, give or take 10 employers in town to be part of the program. It's a really simple application for an employer to sign up. So if you know of companies that want to get into to attract immigrants to work here, it's a 4-page application and a couple pieces of paper and we sign off and then they can start using the program to attract people. So if anybody's asking about it, it's easy to get involved.
Sorry, Mark, do they contact you then? Is that?
Yeah, you bet. The hang up right now with that program is, we can approve employers. It takes me less than a day to go through it. The candidates, usually I get those off pretty quickly too, because you get their information, you set up a quick interview with a few questions just to make sure they're a legitimate person, right? We've had lots of conversations about make sure it's actually a human being that's applying, right? But then they have to apply to the government of Alberta to go through the immigration process, and that is up to a 4 to 6 month wait right now. Because the government got hammered, slammed with applications, so there's many streams, like there's the rural stream that we're using, but there is other streams to the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, so they're very busy right now. So
Mark,
that's where
correct
the
me if I'm
hang-up
wrong, there's also a federal approval portion, is there not?
Yeah, like the province, because it is immigration, it's a federal thing, so the province does a lot of work, I think. And then they have to go to federal.
So that adds more time to
Yeah.
4 to 6 months, so it's not. I don't know, I think and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, because he's been dealing with those individuals, but whether some of them probably understand the time frame, but I think some of them are thinking short term, they can be here and working and yes, no, we've gone through this process, but it still has to go through the provincial and federal side, so it could be 6, 8 months, a year before
Just about a year.
you can actually be placed and working, so.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a little quicker than the normal LMIA, like the federal program, but I don't know if it ultimately ends up being that way. What I find is there's 2 types of people I end up dealing with. There's the people that are overseas that want to come here, and they're, trying to use this as one of the avenues to get into Canada to work. The other ones I find are people that are already here, have been working on an LMIA, which is a labor market immigration, I can't remember. Anyway, It's where a business has actually had to prove that there's a need that they can't fill here. So somebody's already been working here, but the LMIA has a time limit and it's running out. So then they're like, oh, I'll try the rural stream so I can stay here. Right? So then they come knocking and say, oh, how quick can you, my LMIA is running out in the next 3 months. And I'm like, oh, like this process isn't going to be quick enough.
Is
to
there,
cover.
is
So
there a time limit that they have to work at these places? No,
Yes.
not like, they land today, work here 2 days and quit.
no, they have to have a job offer for at least a year.
Yes,
Which is,
it can't be contract and it can't be commission. It has to be hourly based on a wage from what I've
Yeah.
heard from some individuals that have applied for these individuals.
Is the temporary foreign worker program still a program?
I think so. I think that's part of the LMIA kind of.
Is it?
I think it got swallowed up into that one.
It
because
might have.
That was almost a taboo word. It was for a while there, temporary foreign.
Yeah, which I mean, they're all these programs are basically temporary foreign worker
know.
type programs. It's
They
getting
just changed the
people,
word.
getting people here to then become a permanent resident, to then become a citizen. Right, so I'm not an immigration expert. I get lots of questions thrown at me and I defer them to the experts. I say, I manage this program on behalf of our community, but I can't answer immigration questions for you, so.
you're saying that Canada doesn't have enough Canadians that fulfill these jobs?
Nope.
Well, our locals are coming to.
Well, look how many jobs
saying,
are,
I can't find people to work, can you help me find people to work, like?
look how many jobs there was advertised for Tim Hortons and Subway and the Gray and Cactus Corner and,
A skilled,
what's that?
a skilled position.
Plus skill, yeah, like Friesens has approached, they're approved on the approved list now because they can't find meat cutters and stuff, so.
Yeah, and I've heard that some people have applied for some of the jobs, some locals or whatever, and they're not being considered because they're not a foreign worker.
No, see, and honestly, my
This
impression
was
is different
individual
because
that
these
actually
programs have to pay the same, they have to attract the same. So it's not like they're getting cheap foreign workers to come here and that kind of
And
thing.
there's not a
But-
financial incentive to the business to hire these people. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, actually, it
This
costs
is
more
what a
probably for
person
them to
had-
deal with a program
I
like
put in
this.
an application for a job at one of the local places and they were not, and maybe it was because of what was on the resume, I don't know, but anyways.
There's always reasons.
You know, the other thing that keeps coming to mind is, we're talking, like even with the economic development, a part of it, we talk about, the influx of individuals coming in, like the industrial part and stuff, but have we considered like what our healthcare is on overload already?
Yeah.
You can't get in to see a doctor for 2 weeks now, like there's just none of that available here. So even though we're looking at expanding, oh, it's a great thing. We have this industrial park, we bring, 30 new families in, but we don't have the capacity in other areas, in my opinion, right now, just with even my personal experience, to actually even accommodate these individuals and this is the serious part. Like you need medical care, we need doctors, we need dentists, and they don't have space to take these people anymore.
Yeah.
I just think, what, it's great to expand, but when you don't have the professionals before us to, to support the expansion, I mean, it's great for us to just look at that, the expansion part of it, but are we looking at the other part? I guess that's my question. Are we looking at the medical and healthcare and dental and all the rest of it that we need to support when they have all these, even the foreign workers come in? I mean, I think we're in trouble in these small communities because we just can't. So I look what's happening in William right now with another doctor down, and where was it in this province? 13 doctors walked in one day. Like this is getting to be a serious
But it's
issue.
not just in small towns.
Oh, no,
Like you can't, if you're in the city and
Oh,
you don't have a family doctor, you're not getting a family doctor.
yeah, well, here too, you can't, there's nobody.
But
taking
I guess
on.
it's kind of a catch-22. Do you not be aggressive in trying to get these families here and get these people here, or do you sit back and say, no, we don't want anybody here because these other services can't?
I'm not saying we
accommodate,
don't want,
but-
I'm saying the picture's way bigger. It's gotta be a hand in hand. It's not like let's do one parcel, let's pour all our energies, resources into this parcel and not consider this. because this has to work in unity with one another. Otherwise, it's not gonna work because we're not able to support what's already exists.
But
So
on,
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
because what I'm seeing is not that.
but on the medical side, I'll use that as an example. My understanding, and Councilor Kroll can chip in if he's got any more information. So based on previous experience, they were always very comfortable with 4 doctors being the right amount so that they were busy enough, made enough money, was economically viable for them. Again, more people comes in, that might be something the clinic has to look at and say, okay, 4 doctors now is not the right number. We need to bring in more doctors, whether it's 1 or 2 more, and everyone will still be happy and satisfied in terms of they've got a full enough
Workload.
practice. But it's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing. If you don't have more people, you're not gonna get more doctors. And if you get more doctors, there's probably a time delay, or more people is probably a time delay till you get more doctors in. But they kind of always, my understanding is 4 was the right size of complement, and I think that 4 is being stretched right now, to be 100% honest.
Well, retirements, and there's one doctor.
But that causes the whole other issue that you have to recruit for that 4th one, but I don't know, Councilor Kroll, if the clinic has talked about the doctors are full enough that they can't take any more, that maybe they want to consider trying to see if a 5th doctor could be recruited.
Well, the big concern right now is Dr. Medawi, his health isn't real good, he could possibly be leaving. Dr. Fortner wants to go part-time. And,
Dr. Hanna is close to age or retirement age.
Dr. Hanna, well.
So are you guys
He's got
seeking
3
out?
other clinics in Edmonton, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Are
But he
you-
says Hannah's the place he's gonna retire,
Yeah.
you know, whether that's.
So are they seeking at this point, other opportunities to bring in, some more doctors? Then if we already know this before us, that, one's,
Yeah, well,
Takes the 2
Alberta
years
Health
or more.
Service has a lot to do with that. And until that's corrected,
I sat for 2 hours the other day, just for example, in the doctor's clinic, waiting to see a doctor, and I had an appointment. So they were 2 hours behind, 2 hours. That's pretty substantial, and I'm not the only one that had this. I was just kind of shocked. I'd never had that experience, and I mean, right before me, I'm thinking, I think this picture is way bigger than what we see on a day-to-day basis.
That's the whole economic development process, so it's the entire thing is a chicken and egg situation, so, even though you have these silos, you have education, health,
Education too.
housing, all of these different things that I would call silos, they all work together, so with the industrial lot thing, for example, let's hope we get 250 employees, whatever, maybe 200 is too many right off the bat. But the whole idea of having the availability of the residential lots with previous councils was that it's one step in the right direction. You're not all of a sudden faced with 50 people and nowhere to put them. At least the ground is ready. And then that's Harsh and Mark's job and the rest of us as well to liaise with builders and ready to moves and the different options available for construction to be able to mobilize quickly to make those companies and decision makers confident that we can accommodate that growth
Yeah, but we're
in
not
that particular
confident.
area.
Well, even at our hospital as well, it's
Yeah.
always after the fact, how.
But
We're
you can't
sending
really-
people
it has to
elsewhere and
be
everything,
after the
and a population, it's almost, well, a population of X number is going to be serviced by our hospital, and as it grows, it's almost 2 years behind the 8 ball, trying to get everything caught up to be able to handle the number of people that are relocating to our community and such, and.
So I wasn't here when the power plant started and got constructed, but I think would be a prime example if we had something else like that come into our region. That company would, I think they brought in developers and builders and built that subdivision because they knew they had that built up demand that had to be dealt with. And I think, again, they probably did it in the timing such that it took a while to build that plant. So they were able to build that subdivision out, but I think that would be something that would most likely happen if something fell into our laps in terms of a large industrial client,
Even the retail stores, is having 2 screwdrivers on the shelf gonna be enough? Like that's where I say
Yeah.
everybody, you can't have 50 screwdrivers on the shelf and never sell them.
yeah, but that's where, for the builders, for the developers, they look at everything in terms of risk. You know, if I build this, how long is it gonna take for me to move it? And if they know they've got, you know, serious demand for 100 new homes that they know they can move, then this will be an attractive place for them to come in and develop, so.
Well,
It's
hopefully they bring in their own development, you know.
Well, 100%, yeah.
Just like ADCO did.
Yeah.
You know, for the.
Yeah.
When they built the power plant in 1980, they built the north
Yeah.
subdivision,
Yeah.
you know.
But all funding's like that too. They look at the community and say, well, it's stagnant. It hasn't had a change in population in 35 years. That's not where they're gonna want to invest.
Yeah.
They invest in the communities that are growing. The minute you have 1 or 2 go, then other people, oh, they invested in that town. I'm gonna do that too. And you have that little bit of growth, then other people start to come. And then we get more funding for the hospital, then we get more funding for the schools, because now we're growing. And that's actually how this town's gonna survive. That's actually really exciting to me.
I think as a council, we have to go after our MLAs, like, you know, like, what are they doing? Like this, you know, I mean, we need some corrections in upper government, that's for sure. You know, like,
It'll give us more clout if
we have to have, yeah.
Well, as we grow too, like we need more police.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's, I can list a whole bunch
Yeah,
of
oh,
them, just, you know,
definitely.
there's.
police
there's a lot.
playgrounds.
Yeah, anyhow, I just,
Yeah.
I just bring awareness that, you know, sometimes we have to have I think we'd be looking at all capacities of what contributes to a growing community.
And I think that's what Mark has been doing, is looking at some of the other, you know, with the discussion that we had the other day as far as
Housing.
housing and such, so.
We lead into how, I did have one question on immigration.
Go ahead.
No more. Have you, since we started the process?
Yeah.
Have we had anyone that you're aware of that has come through the program? You've endorsed, the employers endorsed, they've gone through the immigration process and have been placed? Do you know if we have
I
any?
don't know for sure. I know last week the government emailed to confirm some of the endorsement letters of the first few that I'd done months ago. So I think they're finally getting to the point of, I couldn't answer that. I think part of the program, they're gonna change it to where there's some follow-up for the communities, because the communities are like, we don't know what happens after we give them the letter, so.
I was just curious if we had enough time in the program that it's,
I think we're close.
okay.
I couldn't tell you for sure.
It's a long,
Yeah.
slow.
Well, I think one of the challenges, Mark, as well, is you're doing this. There's the Ukrainian immigration group doing this, there's another group doing this, and there's 4 or 5 different people doing the same thing. Or a similar thing, I shouldn't say same, and that's part of the challenge as well, like I know when the Ukrainian immigration thing was going on. I was actually contacted, well, John Root actually has a couple of young fellows from Ukraine working for him. And so I got to talk to those 2 young guys, and they're part of a group that comes through Calgary, actually. And so we're placing into rural from that project. So, like I said, there's so many different organizations and groups doing the same thing, so tough to put your finger on everything.
It's, yeah, no, absolutely. Kind of going back to the other comments, everything's always fluid. We tend to, for some reason, look at points in time where we're declining, we're growing, where things change constantly. Can you imagine 3 years ago when, 4 or 5 years ago, when the coal mine was going through its thing and there was houses for sale in the communities and people are leaving and retail businesses are boarding up, that we'd be having the conversation of, oh, we can't grow too fast because our hospital can't handle it. We don't have housing, right? So I guess it comes down to which, it's not we're here today, it's, are we going this way, are we going that way, where do we want to be on the spectrum, so. Yeah, I've had conversations with Alberta Health, I've had conversations with Peryland, we're looking at all those different facets, I've talked to the clinic people about different things, especially, and we'll talk about housing here in a second, but. It really is a community then comes down to, because you're never at a point in time where everything's gonna be perfect and stay that way. So do you want where we had it a few years ago where we're dying, or do you want the problems of? You know, hey, the retail businesses have to find more screwdrivers and the school has to hire another teacher. Like, I guess it comes down to which point on the spectrum do you want to be on? So.
Well, and I think it's a long-term thing too, is that, you know, we have a short vision for either 4 years, because that's how people sit on council or whatever, but something that needs to have a long-term vision that, yeah, we are planning for growth and this is what we're doing, and stuff that you've been doing through Harvest Sky, I think has opened up the doors for a lot of people coming to our community that had never thought of it before, with some of the promotion and videos and that sort of thing, so.
And I think, Mark, we understand the ebbs and flows of an ever-changing community and the diversity in that. It's just that before us right now, we have an issue. And when you compound that with, you know, consideration of a growing community, we have not already addressed the issue before us, which to me, in my mind, is problematic already. Like, we do have those, yeah, anyhow.
There's always, yeah, you're right. There's always gonna be an issue. It's which issue do you want to tackle today and which one's coming tomorrow?
There's
Well,
always,
that's a big one. We need help. Sorry, but.
there's that lag time, right? There's that lag time where you get people here and you're behind because you don't have those services, because people don't want to gear up with those services until they start to know the people are there. It's that risk factor.
Yeah, but
So-
we're already behind for people, like, to be able to service the people that are already here and have been here for years, we're already behind. And HF is not doing any wonders to help the rural communities and such.
I mean, that came out in that AHS, the little summit that they had here. That was, I think primarily maybe one of the reasons why they had it is they were identifying in the communities. And it could be easily identified at our table with our community, you know, where we're falling behind already and how to address those issues already. So
Just getting some action, lots of talk and very little action in some organizations, so.
So speaking of housing then, our board,
To our topic.
our Harvest Sky board met yesterday and due to a couple of housing, so I've been working on housing for a little while now, on a couple of different avenues. The one project I've been working on for a little while is coming up with a developer package to hopefully attract a developer, or a group of builders, if it's our local builders, whatever, to satisfy or to look at satisfying some of our needs here. So I've met with, over the last few months, we had a couple of meetings with groups, but I've also met privately with Peryland, Alberta Health and manager here, with Big Country Housing, with the realtors, basically any group that's looked at or needs housing. There is definitely need, you know, over 75 units or more of potential housing needs. Not your typical single family large homes that we would think of, you know, as a house. But more in some of the stuff like Dale Kroll's been building, the retiree type single level or entry level apartments, more of that type of variety of housing. So I've been working with a couple of people I've been working with over the last few years, consultants, architects, to put together a developer package. I went down to Brooks a few weeks ago. They had a housing kind of, I don't know, not symposium, but call it whatever you want, but they had a couple developers out. They had one from Calgary, one from Edmonton. So they did a small presentation on what it takes or what it could take to get a developer to come to small towns. So made lots of notes. So we're going to try and address that in this developer package to say, here's our need, here's our demand. But, you know, other than just demand, because there's demand everywhere, there's demand in cities. So why would a developer come out here when they can easily flip places in Calgary or Edmonton? So, you know, things to level the playing field to make rural small towns attractive for a developer to come out and do an actual project. So anyway, that's what we're building into this package so that I can send it out there to market what we have and hopefully attract somebody that wants to do a whole subdivision. Whether it's apartment buildings, more single family or single retiree type homes, entry level, like between Alberta Health at the hospital and Prairie Land, you know, they're losing nurses and teachers, for example, because they're fresh out of school, they've done a good job of recruiting people, but they get here and there's nowhere for them to live. Certainly, they're not going to invest in a $500,000 single family home as a new teacher out of school, for example, or nurse. So, you know, to me, the places that Dale Kroll's kind of building is good for retirees, or it's entry level. They're smaller, you know, you do duplexes, again, those kind of things. So let's get a developer, somebody that wants to look at the whole picture of what we need and put a project together, and then get the builders going. And whether it's ready to moves, whether it's stick builds, whether it's an apartment building, let's address those needs, but try and do it holistically, right? The other thing we talked about yesterday at our meeting, we'd been approached by the town of Hanna about, because they'd been approached by a local builder about doing a spec home. So the board met and Harvest Sky was asked to quote unquote manage the project on behalf of the town. So the motion that was made yesterday was that Harvest Sky approach the town of Hanna and special areas to enter into a partnership to build a spec home on Fielding Place with equal contributions of up to $150,000 for partners. And then we will talk to the builder, some of the provisions of the motion. The builder will provide a suitable design to be approved by the partners. A request coming, so I'll send a formal request through Kim to come to you guys, of course, for your next meeting, and a special area is the same. So a waiver, requesting the town a waiver of both property taxes and town utilities until the property is sold. The expense that equally by the partners, Harvest Sky to own the property until such time it is sold, because Harvest Sky being an independent corporation, we can do things that municipalities, it would be a little more difficult for you guys to do. And that the project be completed within 1 year from the agreement being signed. So I'm gonna send a formal request here, hopefully in the next day or two, through Kim to you guys and through Jordan to his special areas board to see if we can form a partnership and build a spec home. It's not gonna address all the needs, the housing needs that we have, but I think there's lots of demand, obviously, and we can spur that by getting ahead of the game, starting to build more projects, then maybe we'll get caught up on some of the housing. So two of the housing initiatives that I'm working on right now.
That's cool.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to mention too, that the developer, has owned some lots within Fielding Place, and that could be a possibility of, part of a contribution, towards the whole project, or.
Yeah, if the builder that approached the town wants to be a partner in the group, an equal partner, then, you know, we consider construction and land as part of the contribution. So basically the cost of the house at the end of the day would be split equally amongst the partners, so that then they could share the risk or the reward of when the house is sold.
That's awesome.
My only comment, that one provision about an approved design to the partners, I think it'd be terrible for the efficiency of the project. I mean, a broad idea of a single family, single level home, would be my preferred thing, is all we see. I mean, to see an approved design come through this table, and special areas table, would be like terribly inefficient.
Sorry, maybe the word.
Maybe I just misunderstood.
Yeah, I'm not bringing the design back to,
Okay.
again, that'll just delay things. It's more to make sure that the builder doesn't build something that's off.
Build a Taj Mahal and-
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll probably be basically a carbon copy of what's being built already. Yeah.
Mark, I do have some concerns about stepping on the toes of private enterprise with entering into this.
Mhm.
I mean, primarily, I don't know that a municipality is in the market at any level to be building homes. I also question that too. I mean, if they each contribute a sum of $150,000, if that home doesn't sell for 3 years, if it sells at a loss, that is back, that's a three-way loss then, like if it doesn't sell for like the $400,000, then is the town willing to take that as a loss? I mean, these are all these questions. I don't know that the town has ever built, a home or a property. I know they tried to at one time, tried to get an investor in, north of Fielding Place to, create a subdivision and do some development there, and that fell to the ground at that point in time. So, yeah, I'm wondering how this will look and how our constituents will perceive this if we're all of a sudden now, number one, stepping on private enterprise and also spending municipal dollars. And where would these dollars be coming from, I guess is the other thing. All of a sudden, we've drawn up our budget, so now we're gonna try and pull out $150,000 out of the coffer somewhere. Where's that coming from? If we decide that we could afford to do that.
So that'll be the discussion that council will have at the next council meeting, but, based on, discussion we had at previously on council, that was kind of the direction council gave us, was to approach Harvest Sky, that there definitely was interest from council in being a partner in a spec home. So we moved that direction. Ultimately, the decision will be council's on June 11th to say, do we want to be a partner? Yes or no. Certainly the dollars, Councilor Warwick, that we would use would be out of our reserves or out of our surplus. You're right, we have not budgeted a contribution in our budget, so if we were going to, we would need, an approval from council to be a partner on what level and to what amount. So certainly that's something that's forthcoming at the next council meeting for, a decision from council on that.
As far as the private enterprise, that same discussion is gonna happen in special areas. I don't necessarily feel that because we're not building, we're not bringing in a building from outside of town. It's the local builder that has approached you guys to come to Harvest Sky. And I look at it as spurring the development, much the same as special areas did in Oyen with the railroad, with the rail yard. You can wait out in rural Alberta for private enterprise to catch up, as you mentioned, like we're behind on housing. If we wait for our local builders and developer to come from who knows where to do this, they will eventually catch up. The market will eventually catch up 3, 5, 10 years from now. If we can help spur that to address the needs, as you mentioned, in housing that the community is behind, much the same as special areas did at the Oyen Rail Yard. There was a need, they saw an opportunity, they moved time forward by getting involved and now have sold, or in the process, I'm not sure where it's at, of selling the Oyen Rail Yard to private enterprise. So it's not stepping on private enterprise, it's actually being a partner in and helping spur development and move it faster.
I think it'd be similar, and I realize we're not the same scope as a cross iron, but when they first started putting cross iron together, I looked at that and went, that is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You're 20 miles out of town, what are you doing? And now you go to cross iron, if you can get to cross iron, and it's a booming thing. It's no different than I think in the two new the new subdivisions. When they first started in there, of course, that was after we moved here, and that's within 25 years. Same thing, I thought there was no way, and that built up rather rapidly. But what I think has to happen is you build one, or you build two, or you build three, and then all of a sudden it's I'm gonna say the cool thing to have a house in that subdivision. And I think I'm rather encouraged by that. So, I think it'd be a great idea.
I think Councilor Thurles had his hand up a few times.
For this cost of these houses, you're going to try to stay in the middle range, or you can build the most expensive houses, but most people can't afford the most expensive. So which way are you guys going? Just stay on the lower level, so the
Lower end, for sure, yeah, we're not building a Taj Mahal.
No, like
Again,
the
it'd be
developer-
very similar, sorry.
Sorry, Marty, the developer knows exactly what is selling
Yeah.
and what. is looking
But
for.
I guess Councilor Thurl, my comment would be in discussions with the builder that even the newer homes that they're being built now in Fielding Place, that's kind of, and even the ones that were built on the old lodge property are in the 350, 400.
yeah, no, that's
bill.
the whole
So
thing.
it's to me, that's a big number, but it's not, that's the cost of
That's the
building
cost, I know
those
what the
products
cost
these
is.
days.
And although, I'll just make one quick comment. So although we put in 150,000 in here, the idea is not to build two 450,000. It's if we put in 100,000 and all of a sudden we need an extra 10 grand because of something, then I gotta come back and do all this again. So it's up to that amount as well.
And I think, a previous council had made the decision to develop Building Place. And so they invested all this money into it and it's been sitting empty until this latest construction and stuff. So part of investing in it, then that house that is going to be a spec home, then will generate taxes back to the town that it's not getting off of that property. So then it is providing some revenue back in to help cover some of the expenses initially invested into that Building Place. So if it spurs more development within that area, then it's also gonna spur more tax revenue back to the town of Hanna. So that is a good thing. We're earning nothing with the lot sitting empty. And I see that as kind of a move in the right direction. We're trying to get that lot or that development filled so that it starts generating tax revenue.
Well, if that new house can house a nurse or a doctor or a skilled worker that we can't house now, I think it's a win-win-win situation. I'm not arguing there's definitely some risk involved in it, but.
There's definitely risk. Yeah, always that's, yeah.
So then where are we gonna stop? Like, I mean, if 5 other contractors come up and ask for investments, do we refuse them?
So this is the discussion that was at Harvest Sky yesterday, because that is certainly a potential. So the way that the board approached it yesterday was the fact that we were approached by a local builder with an idea to do this partnership. So we are doing this investment as a one-time pilot project. If the project is successful, the house is built, it's sold, we either make some money off of our investment or not. The thought then would be, if councils are willing and Special Areas Board are willing to let that initial investment stay with Harvest Sky, to then spur another development on, we would then open that up to all of the builders to make proposals as to how they would want to move forward in a partnership. So again, you're not gonna do a ton with the, it's a relatively large investment, but in the big scheme, it's a small investment. So we've got, between the 3 funding bodies, we got $450,000. It's not like we can have 3 houses on the go at the same time. So it's gonna take some time. It might be one at a time, maybe. Potentially we make a little money on the sale and that adds to the pot and you keep growing a little bit more as you develop. But we took the approach that because the builder came to us with the idea of wanting to partner and do this, that we wanted to go with a one-time shot that way. And if it's successful, open it up to anybody else who might be interested.
That's why I'm working on the long-term bigger development plan, is then it would encompass more builders and stuff to be involved, so.
I'm not gonna have anything to do with voting on this, because I'm a relative of the developer.
But
Conflict of interest.
But
Yes, it is.
technically, Council Kroll, technically, according to the MGA, you will not be. Have a pecuniary interest because that isn't going into your pocket or your immediate family's pocket.
No.
So technically, by that, but you need to do what you need to do, but technically, according to the MGA, you would not be in a pecuniary interest position.
That's correct.
I know we've had lots of discussion around this. I kind of want to get moving forward because you're gonna have the same discussion possibly on June 11th.
Oh, well, that's how it is.
So,
Keep discussing it until we get everything laid out before us, until, I think the other thing I just wanna, I heard just, when we talk about building these homes for professionals, this, that, and we identify these, I would hope that we don't have a bias that, this whole home could be sold to anybody, doesn't matter, what bias you might have on a professional. It might be a university student, it might not be a university student, it might be somebody. But I think we always identify that, or we need houses for this person, or this sector. And I just want to make sure that that's not the bias we have on any of
Whoever pays the
this.
price,
Yeah.
whoever pays
just-
the,
Yeah.
asking price, and, yeah. I don't think, yeah,
Has there been, more talk about building apartments in this town? You know, it's not like.
that's a long term.
Yeah, I know a couple people have been investigating them. I don't know where they're at with their projects, so that's why I'm gonna include kind of the needs in the bigger package I'm putting together, and if it spurs discussion about apartment building, then that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah, there's like I said, there's a variety of needs.
Variety of stuff.
I don't know that we need any large single-family homes that we would consider a single-family home. Especially if we get some smaller retiree type places put up. I think you would see more of the retiree or soon to retiree age move into the smaller homes, opening up larger single-family homes. So I'm not saying there's never a need, but that's not the variety of housing that I'm working on, or at least pursuing as part of this project, but I certainly wouldn't turn anybody away if they wanted to build a house in town.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my update. I don't know if you have other questions.
There, so,
Yeah.
good information.
Thank you. I just have one more question. Just this came to me this week, just twice, and I think this is a good opportunity because we have Mark and Mr. Neal here, but I had a couple individual ask me about how the coal transition dollars were spent in this community. And before addressing it, they just said it would be nice to see if there was something specific that was done in our community that, you know, was. And I said, well, there is things that have been done, but they couldn't identify them. So what I'm thinking is, could there possibly be some kind of advertisement or layout with all the things that have been done with that $10 million or whatever it was?
On the
It's
Harvest Scout
all-
website.
it's all
I did a
identified?
report.
Mark's
Yeah.
provided
Okay.
report,
It's all on.
council and on.
The
on all of
problem
the
a little
dollars
bit
that have
with
been
that
spent.
is, though, and I know a couple people that asked me about this, they aren't gonna be going to that website. They aren't gonna be, I know it's a little bit tough. Would there be another application, like maybe on the back of, you know, at some point in time of one of our mailouts that we could give all that information and, I mean, it's not a very long summary.
Well, it's 8 pages, 10 pages.
Well, we don't have to, do we have to have all the details in there, or can we just?
Well,
I
identify-
summarized stuff quite a bit, so I don't know how much more you want me to drill it down to.
I'm just saying this for those people that are watching that asked me to ask
But we
this
can
question. I've
certainly-
now asked it, so from here, you guys can
We can
identify
certainly
it
have
from
some
there.
copies if someone
I think
wants
it's under
to.
news and reports.
Someone
You go
wants
to
to
the very
pick up a copy at the office, we can certainly
Okay.
have some available. That's a printed
Okay.
form. That's not an
Well,
issue
maybe
at
I'll
all.
give that advice then, is
Yeah.
just, you know, because some of these people just don't have access to some of
Or if
the.
somebody,
You
you
know.
know, if somebody wants to,
Then they do.
if somebody,
The-
Councilor Warwick wants to, just have them
The spring or the
phone
update,
and I
twenty
can print
twenty-three
a copy
update.
for them.
No, yep, that one right there.
Well, it's not identified. If they're watching this, it's not all identified piece point by point of what the whole coal transition dollars were spent on.
Well, all the
Yeah.
dollars are in there, actually.
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
saying that, but I'm saying if somebody's watching this, they're
No.
not getting into that right now.
Oh,
We'll see exactly the, you know, specifics of it.
So they could pop into the Harvest Sky office to get a copy.
Or here.
yeah. I can-
And I did mention that they could get in touch with you, Mark, too. Thank you.
Okay, nothing else from Mark. I'd like to, council thanks Mark, Dakota Manager of Harvest Sky Operations, for presentation and update on council. Great information, great discussion. Again, Mark, thank you very much. Motion, Councilor Murphy. All in favor? Great, carried.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Mr. Nell.
Just a couple things, I won't take long here. So downtown redevelopment project, as council's aware, scheduled to start on Monday, June 10th. First block will be the block right immediately to our east here. we did have a open house, as I mentioned council previously, I did hand out, an invitation to the open house, bit of an update on timing for the project to all of the businesses, last week. We did promote an open house for them to come if they had any particular questions or concerns on the project. Because we had the contractor here, the engineers here. After handing out the flyers last week, my sense was that it was going to be fairly quiet open house, and it was. We had 3 businesses, I guess one being the Legion, and 2 businesses come and had some questions that were answered by the contractor. And they left very satisfied. So it's certainly if you're talking to anybody or anybody wants to hear some more, direct them to me. But like I said, the sense I got when I went out last week was everyone was relatively okay with it. A lot of people were looking forward to it. But like I said, we only had 2 businesses in the Legion come in that had some particular questions about servicing access, and they all left very happy with the conversation. And again, in discussions with the contractor and the engineers, our intent is to mitigate access issues as much as we can through this project, so.
Councilor Olson.
I don't know when the right time for conversation, but I mean, the talk of compensation of these businesses has been going on for a long time. When it started with the first meeting that we had at the Legion, that they set up the 3,000 to 6,000 to 12, 15,000 random numbers that were thrown out per month, was wild. And there's been some creative ideas of, reduce taxes for the days when they have no access, or cover their utilities for the days where there's no access. That to me is different than the lack of parking. They're still open. Yes, it'll be challenging for patrons and for them to operate the same as they do. But when there's no access, or for example, a restaurant, when they have no water, I'm assuming they can't operate when they don't have water. If that's 1 day or 2 days. Like I would appreciate a discussion, even if it's during construction, but some kind of compensation if it is just for the simple utilities or taxes for the days where there's no access.
So
Because there has to be time when there's no sidewalks, when they're pouring them.
my comment, Councilor Olson, and again, we'll know more as we work through the construction, but I know, speaking with the contractor, they don't believe there will be any time that they will be out of water. If
Okay,
they're out of water, it might be for 15 minutes.
okay,
They're going to have their temporary setup. My understanding, they'll have their temporary setup. They will have them ready to go. They will have them tested by Alberta Health to make sure the water quality is good. They'll have it tested a second time. Once the second test comes through that it's positive, they will have it all set up. It'll be a simple connection to their existing water, bang into the hose. Like we have some work to do in advance in terms of outside hose bibs or taps, because that's what they'll tie into. So they'll have them all set up, ready to go. And when the approvals have come back from AHS that the water samples are good, they're ready to go. They just turn a valve and that's where they'll be fed. They shut off the inflow from the existing system and feed it and go. So there will be very little time they'll be out of water. Even talking with sewer, that was one of the questions last night from one of the residents. They said 15 minutes.
oh, well.
They'll use the existing sewer. The existing sewer will stay in the existing sewer line and continue to be used. They will install the new one, have it all ready to go. Then it's simple, just a connection, go bang, when the new one's ready, tie it in.
That's assuming they don't come across anything unforeseen.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
no, but in terms of the actual process, it'd be very, very limited time. And even with the access in the front, I think it would be very, very minimal time. It might be less than a day.
Okay.
So there will be, when they're don't have access, it's gonna be a very limited time. Will they have, less than normal access for 5-6 weeks, yes. But yeah, whenever, however we want to move forward, Counselor Olson, on this with council and have a discussion, I'm more than willing, but we need to, I think, maybe see how it's going and maybe be open. It might be more of an after the fact
Yeah, which is,
discussion than
yeah,
prior, it's, because again, we're all theoretically anticipating how things are gonna happen, but in actuality, maybe it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And if it is, and they're more inconvenienced or less inconvenienced, we'll know as we've gone through the process.
that's fair.
One thing I had thought of, I haven't spoken to Kim about this, but during COVID, we assisted the businesses in Hanna as much as we could with, you know, keeping traffic going. If some of those businesses wanted assistance with promoting a special, or I don't know,
Yeah.
that's maybe something that we can assist.
No, certainly
Yeah.
my
on a temporary
My
basis.
intention with it is there will be signage. We'll have to look at creating some signage that could go on the construction fence that will say business is still open. But as far as our communications, I certainly want to, from the town, try and put home to our residents through our communications that the downtown businesses are open during construction and they need your support. So please consider, using them as much as possible or more.
They
So,
need to take a little initiative too.
yeah, and if they have specials or want to do something, we certainly will help that, but we want to try and get that message out that they need your support. Maybe it's a little inconvenient for you to access, but they're still there. They still need to operate and still want your support.
Even takeout service.
Yeah.
Restaurants.
I'm wondering as a proactive that maybe, rather than trying to deal with it after the fact, is having a motion in place that we, some kind of support if in fact they do have, times where they're not gonna have water or sewer or whatever. Cause they can't be open.
No, 100%.
They absolutely cannot be functional. They have to lock the doors immediately with that happening. So in support of these businesses that maybe, interfered with for a certain amount of time, I think a way to be proactive is maybe have something before us in a motion to show that we are gonna support them if in fact they don't have water and sewer and can't have their doors open.
But is that period of time, I guess my only concern with that, Councilor Warwick, is we don't know whether that right now, whether that's 15 minutes or an hour or a day. And I know I have a little bit of advantage in speaking with the contractors, but I know they certainly don't want to impede traffic. And they looked last night when they're here after 5 o'clock, they looked downtown and they said there was one car on the street. Maybe that's when they need to do some of their connections. Maybe that's when they need to pour their final cements. Do anything that interfere access will be on weekends or after 5.
Well, then there's businesses that open later in the evening too.
Yeah,
So 5 o'clock, no, there's
But-
not, but at 6 o'clock when our bars and stuff open downtown, that's a different scenario then, again.
but again, last night, when they looked down the street again, this is just their general comment. When they're here,
That's Tuesday.
they left at 7 o'clock, there was 2 cars on the street.
Yeah, and weekends will be different than during the.
So,
weekend.
so they're more than willing and they want to reduce any conflicts as much as possible as well. So you certainly can put a motion that council will consider compensation options.
If there's, like a day they can't operate or half day they can't operate. Due to construction, absolutely.
Like I said, at this point in time, from the contractors, they feel that will be very, very, very minimum.
Yeah, this is if things, they always go according to.
Yeah.
If they don't, then of course,
Unforeseen.
it's fair to act.
No, and you're right, and if we have to close for 2 days, that's certain, someone has to close for 2 days because they don't have water or they don't have access to their building. That's different than if it's for an hour or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm just going by what the contractors are saying in terms of how they do their work and what their expectation on time is gonna be.
Yeah.
So that's there. I don't know if there's anything else. I did identify in my report, we did not get any Canada Summer Jobs funding. My understanding is the Harvest Sky, as Mark indicated, did get partial funding, and the library did get some funding, was my understanding.
I don't think
But
we-
museum didn't, and I know we didn't, so
Is there an explanation why you guys didn't get
they're
it?
just significantly oversubscribed. That's their answer.
That's all right.
And did these individual, did they have an opportunity for the community foundation? Like, for some of this?
Well,
if
the
they-
Canada Summer Job is specific to employment.
Okay. so-
And again, it's a process. You apply in December and you don't hear until April or May. So it's not the best process, but at least our community got something. Last year there was nothing. Other than that, I don't know if there's anything, I know, Regional Emergency Management Group has been meeting. Had a couple of, meetings with the directors and deputy directors. I know that, our local emergency management, committee has a meeting tomorrow night. One of the things, they'll get brought up to date as to where everything's at, but we are looking at now having each of the municipalities appointing their elected official to the Regional Emergency Management Agency. So they'll start to work as an organization with all the elected officials on the Regional Emergency Management Plan. So it's just starting. And other than that, typical busy spring, summer stuff. Pool's been off to a bit of a slow start with our weather. But the diehards certainly have been enjoying it. Kevin and I have talked about the spray park. We haven't talked a definite date, but the forecast looks better next week and towards the end of next week. So we're probably gonna have it ready and geared up for that. It's just, you need to probably be in the low to
High
mid
teens.
20s, you know, for it to be of any value. And people think that, a lot of people think that if the water's not actually visible and seen, that it's not working, but once we start the system up, it runs 24/7, whether there's water coming out or not, because it's recirculating and treating that water. So there is cost to the town once we start the system. It's not just when the water's visible above the ground, so.
That's what we,
The benches we talked about, the last fall, the
say,
picnic tables are completely sad
Yeah,
and need to be replaced.
yeah. Yeah, that was a product we bought from one of our local companies. I think it was the plastic ones.
Yeah.
And didn't hold up as good as wood.
No.
Have you confirmed discussion with Brooks Asphalt for resurfacing of the skate park or equipment or anything goes on there?
Yeah, they've given us a quote to do the work originally before they had the project. I've asked them to consider that as a donation to the community in lieu of the project that they're gonna be doing in town. So they're gonna let me know. Their challenge right now, even when I talked to them yesterday, was we've got a number of patches that need to be done that they didn't get to last fall. So I said, we'd like to move this forward, and I know they're working on paving 36. My understanding from them, they're gonna be winding that up today, but then they're moving to the 855. And they're gonna be paving 855 for a couple of weeks, and so they're trying to then slip them in. The trouble isn't necessarily the asphalt, it's just having the staff that would come and prep the patches. But they are aware of our equipment is supposed to arrive mid-June, so we are hoping that we can get them in and get a small layer of asphalt poured over the existing surface before the equipment comes. If it doesn't, we have the ability, we can move the equipment off again. But it would be nice if we could get them in. They're just not willing to guarantee a time at this moment, so.
Okay.
Any,
Yeah, well, Council Bonner's question.
oh, sorry,
Well,
Councilman.
I hate to be negative on a project that, went forward and that the money was given to the town to address the community kitchen. And, I have heard that some are not impressed with it and do not feel they were consulted, in trying to make it as user friendly for the people that actually use it. And, you know, like the extra storage and, a dishwasher that is at capacity that is more user friendly than what they were given. I figure it's too small and such. And then now, they're having to go back and find something for storage and, you know, additional storage in that space and stuff. So, you know, I think, and whether it's true or not, but if there are some that, regularly use the kitchen, were not consulted, you know, I think if that was sort of the whole idea, I think that should be sort of a given, is that you're consulting with those that are, have been using it and tend to be the ones that may use it down the road, that their actual decisions or comments are considered to make it all sort of a better project, that there's no revisiting down the end to make up for shortfalls here and there. And
So my only comment around that was, my understanding was that when Mark was having those discussions, our local caterers were invited and did not show.
yeah, and
So I don't know, I
so-
didn't manage that
No, no.
part. As Mark mentioned, and we've mentioned, we certainly are going to, work on fixing some things that don't work, but
Yeah.
each each
Caterer.
caterer does things a little bit differently, and,
Yeah.
and some you change it to the way they like it. It's not the way the other person likes it, so.
Yeah, but it could be blended for.
Yeah, so we are open and we are, Kevin has talked to the caterers that have been in and used it and got some feedback, and we're looking at some changes that we can make to tweak it so that it's, works better for them.
Well, and that's good to know that they were invited and there was a no-show, so that's.
Well, some of it, I think there
Maybe
needed
it's
to be a
not.
little bit more reach out, or,
Or a little bit more,
you know what,
flexibility in meeting with them.
because I'm not hearing anything positive as well. I've heard now 3 different negative comments about the kitchen. I walked in there the
I'm
other,
not hearing
did they
anything
change the cupboards in there at all? Like, did
The
they,
bottom ones.
did they change the bottom cupboards, like where the doors open? Did they change? I was looking, I wasn't sure.
All the bottom cupboards were removed.
Okay, they were all changed, so then,
Yeah.
okay.
Top ones were left.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting just hearing the negativeness after we've spent all these dollars remodernizing the kitchen, so.
Part of the project, part of the parcel was we had some time limits that the money had to be expended by. So we had some other options for it. Those options didn't work. We ran into a crunch time to get it done and get it completed. The funds off by the end of March, or other they were lost, and there was only a certain amount of funding, so we couldn't do anything and everything. It wasn't carte blanche, you can do whatever you want in there. There was a window of funding that we had, so. I've talked with one of the caterers during Stage Hanna, and she was very happy with it, so.
I think
Unless
she
they're
would
telling
happen
me-
to be around when they were doing work on it, when the engineer or the designer or whatever and town staff were there, happened to be, well, she happened to be there and was able to make some suggestions or something, but yeah, it works both ways. There's gotta be, you know, something, if an opportunity is given to them and they don't take advantage of it, maybe there is some other opportunity to, for them to contact directly or whatever, and if that's not, if they are not taking the initiative to provide that information, then, you know, that's something that we need to know so that we can.
But I
say
want
that
I want the message to be that we are open
Yeah,
and willing to listen to their concerns and things that they want to address, and we're gonna do our best to address those
Then-
issues moving forward.
yeah, and it's too bad that that wasn't addressed before it was built, so that it doesn't have to be revisited and time wasted. Is all I'm saying.
There were 5 nights in the kitchen during the Stage Hanna performances. Well, more than that before and afterward, but It's funny because guess it's who you talk to. I never had one complaint.
Well, they
come
approached me,
forward.
so,
It's interesting.
anyways, that's all. Thank you.
Any update on the PLRD?
No, I haven't heard a word from them, so it's in their,
Yeah, no, it's their
Fall.
thing.
yeah.
Do you get the vibe they're willing to put dollars into it?
Well, I think initially, I don't know if it's one of those things, Counselor Olson, that they've, weren't sure how it was gonna work once they moved in there, not having that, but now they've been in there for almost a full school year of operation, and maybe they've found it hasn't been as much of an issue as they thought it was gonna be. But I haven't heard anything back from them, so I've kind of left that in their ball court to, determine if they want to move forward or not, so.
Animal control bylaw.
So I just wanted to have a bit of a discussion. I know Counselor Olson has to leave, and I hope he's got some comments ready if he has any before he has to leave. But
Well, hopefully I'll be back in time for the next one.
but we do have, as council's aware, we did give the animal control bylaw, including the section with the urban hens added to it, first reading, and directed us to bring back a plan for council approval. So we've got a draft plan attached. It's, it's longer, it's more of a longer timeline than I anticipated, and partly just because of work commitments and vacation times. It is gonna take a little bit longer to go through. I just wanted to get a sense from council as to whether they're okay with this timeline and whether they're okay with the methods of trying to get the feedback back from our residents on the animal control bylaw. They'll be more specifically on the urban hen component because that's new. Is there any questions or feedback on that?
I have a question. The hen license at $50 a hen seems absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah,
Well, and
That
that's
is
certainly,
extreme. Like
I don't know
a
if
hen
it's
doesn't-
extreme, I don't know if it's extreme compared to what other communities are charging. It might be a little on the higher side, but certainly that's certainly
I get-
within council's purview.
easy to make.
Before the
decisions.
second and third reading is completed, is to amend those fees.
Yeah, it should, and I suspect it'll get changed to the same as an intact dog.
Possibly, that will be council's, opinion, ability to set whatever rate they want there, so. In regards to the license fee. Any comments on the plan? Anything we're missing, anything we're overkill, anything you'd like to see done differently? I know it's taking a little bit longer than what we had anticipated, but, and again, we run into this same old over summer, July, August, how good a time is that to be out trying to generate?
For people's availability, it seems unfair to have something like this when people are gone, so it's.
Potentially,
Yeah. Yeah,
So it'll delay most of the public engagement stuff, won't start till mid-August under this plan and carry forward to approximately, mid-September, end of September, and then brought back to council in October, so.
it seems long, but it's also been 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
anyways.
no, yeah.
That's another one, I guess.
So, if we got I guess if council hasn't got any changes as far as amendments or things we need to include, we would bring this back to be formally approved at our June 11th council meeting, and we'll go off of this plan and this timeline. I guess between now and then,
If you have any
if you have any changes, you can let us know, or it certainly can be amended the evening of June 11th if there was something you wanted added or deleted or changed.
Even in the bylaw, like the fees?
Well, I wouldn't worry, Counselor Warwick, to amend the fee until we bring it back for second reading. So when it's here for second reading, I think that would be the time to, any amendments would be made and including the fee. But I think through the public engagement time, that might be one of the comments we get back from our public is $50 is too high. But I don't think we need to amend that until second reading.
I love the email, the temporary hands@hanna.ca. I love that.
Okay, everybody's okay with that?
So those are decisions that would be good to have that direction from council at some point.
Well, I think I like that email address, so I think we could probably incorporate it into our messaging, so.
That's good. Okay, everybody good? I think so. Public engagement plan? Any questions, concerns?
That's what we just did.
Yes, no, I'm just making sure that there's no more.
Yeah.
Because we don't wanna put it in and then go, well, it was stupid, nobody told us, so. Town of Hanna purchasing policy.
We need a
Oh,
motion.
sorry, motion to
Accept the,
accept Counselor Thorold. All in favor? Carried. Purchasing policy, Town of Hanna purchasing policy discussion.
so I don't have much here, Mr. Mayor. I know, Councilor Warwick and I had a discussion and, I've just put it on the, I guess, council's table to have a discussion in terms of whether we want to revisit our current purchasing policy, which is very brief and it's very antiquated. And if so, what kind of parameters would you like us to look at? I know, and I'm speaking for Councilor Warwick and she can add to it, but I know one of her concerns is establishing something that gives preference to local, suppliers of goods and services, materials, and the only two, I did a quick review and not an extensive review. I did two, like Drumheller provides a preferential to local of 10%, up to $25,000. And Stettler does it a little bit different. They have 10% as well, between 0 to 15,000, and then between 15 and 7,500 or 75,000, it is still $1,500 is the allowable difference. I know staff, when they're looking at things, sometimes have that question, so I think it would be good if council could come to some sort of conclusion or understanding on if we are putting something in local, what type of preference we could allow, because I know council will, or staff will come to me sometimes and say, well, we can buy local, but it's 20% higher, 25% higher. Where do we draw the line between getting the best value for our service or supporting local, and what that percentage would be?
Oh.
Sir, I'm gonna take off in
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 minutes. I want to make sure I said my piece. I like 15%. It seems really awkward to put staff in the spot of, we set the budget and we are very strict with the money as we should be, and make sure it's spent appropriately. Then at the same time, say, criticize them for being budget conscious. So to have a line, and I agree, local should get a benefit. I think to make it clear, and literally black and white, I mean, 15%, almost across the board, even if it's a $100,000 project, 15 grand, probably acceptable.
The challenge we run into, just to clarify, Councilor Olson, you'll see in the Stettler one, technically things that are over $75,000 in goods and material, according to the trade agreement, the federal trade agreement, we can't have any preference.
But so how can we not, the RFPs that I've done, when we weigh it out, you can weigh it out however you like, as long as you provide evidence of your decision.
Process,
You know, the price can be weighed 2 points out of your 10.
Yeah.
Availability or service or, past relationship. you can weigh that 6 points out of 10. A past relationship with somebody local can outweigh
The
Joe
challenge,
Randall.
the challenge
Quality
comes.
of work.
The challenge, Counselor Olson, I think you run into, and it's very rare. It's very rare that you go through that process and a business who doesn't get it because they have the lowest bid or whatever, will then follow through and, because it puts a bad spot on their reputation if they're out criticizing other municipalities for the decision they made. So they want to keep a good reputation in the business. They also want maybe to submit something to the town of Hanna at a future opportunity. So, but technically, I think you could be challenged in court if you were giving preference, especially on those amounts over 75 and 200,000 on construction. I'll give you an example. If Hanna Building Supplies would have bid on our downtown project and they would have been 15% over the cost, and we gave it to them, some of the other companies could challenge that decision in court.
But they have to prove that they're
Based on price.
capable of.
Well,
doing the
100%,
job.
yeah.
Not just because they have a business in town
No.
that they get preferential.
No,
treatment
when
or
we're
past
talking-
history
But
or-
when we're talking 10%, 15%, whatever that number is, that's when everything else is equal.
Yeah.
That's not,
Well,
That's my concern, because right now Henry Kruger is dealing with a failure of a backup generator that was purchased from a local, and it wasn't apples to apples and oranges to oranges. It was a cheaper version of the same generator that was purchased local. And unfortunately, we can't always put a dollar figure on the quality of a product. So that's another thing that's taken into effect.
yeah.
And that brings us.
So I just want to clarify one thing, I thought I read this, maybe I read this wrong, when Brooks Pavement got this
Yeah.
job here, they weren't the lowest
They,
contender.
yeah, they were.
They were the lowest
Yeah.
contender? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
Well, and I think, you know, if you have a local business that is able to provide a service, they are a little higher, but an outside business is lower. But there's transportation and accommodation and other stuff that has to be included in that bid, other than just the price itself. Right?
But typically, Counselor Bowden, if we're bidding someone, those costs don't come into consideration.
But you end up having to pay that.
No, we pay the
The bid
contract or
Well, it's
the
built into
invoice.
the-
Well, they'll build it into their invoice. Don't get
That's
me
why your
wrong.
local
They'll
contract.
build it into their invoice, but if their invoice is still lower
I can't
than a
hear.
than a local, we don't pick up those costs.
That's why your
above and
local
beyond.
contractors have an
They have the
advantage.
advantage on those because they have the accommodation, they have the transportation, they have everything here.
Yeah, but I still think it's being included elsewhere and stuff.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry, I can't hear.
That's fine.
So, yeah, I'm just looking for some feedback from council, because we'll draft something. I do think it's time that it's revisited. And I do think we need to redraft something. I know Councilor Olson's throwing out a number. I don't know if there's is that something we can work off of? And again, is there other considerations we need to put into a purchasing policy that you're aware of?
I'm not sure that 15% is the number. I guess I would have to see, I've been actually talking to some of our community members, and actually I had a couple of them come to me very upset about how the town does business. And then we expect, these businesses give back substantially to community. Donations, all of, also the service, I'm just thinking if you have technology or whatever, not only maybe it might cost a bit more to buy a computer or some kind of equipment, but then we also have the service at our back door as well. I mean, those are things to consider as well. I just wonder sometimes, what is fair and reasonable? Some of the individuals that I've talked to in our community, they've actually said to me, we don't care if it does cost more. We want to provide and support our service. And if it's not coming from a municipal level, how does that in fact reflect, how we support community? And I mean, sometimes and then I got thinking about some of the stuff, you know, if you went to buy a shovel and it was 15% less at an outside source. I mean, transportation, all the rest, I don't know what that would entail. Could you not, actually come back to a local community member or business and counteract that by saying, is there any way you can meet these margins? I mean, is that a possibility?
Well,
You know.
my initial thought, Councilor Warwick, is majority of the supplies and materials that our staff buy are local. And they don't go, if they're buying a shovel, like,
Consumables.
and you'll see the list, and I'm not picking on Warwick's Home Hardware because
We can pick
you're
on that,
here.
that would be a
But-
good one to
But
start
if
with.
you look at the accounts payable, there's lots of transactions that the town has paid. They don't go and say, okay, what's a shovel cost here? What's a shovel cost there? They go in and they buy that because it's typically under $50, $100, $200. It's more of the larger products and items. And I guess I've always said, you know, and this is not a position I want to put my staff in, that they're going to, Chris, and they're saying, Chris, could you knock $5 off that shovel? Like, that's not appropriate for them to negotiate. If it's larger items, if we're talking an item that's $50,000, and we can get it, somebody out of town says we can give that same thing to you for $10,000.
Well, how much money do
Then
you?
you can have that conversation with them and say, hey, we can get this for 40, can you match that?
Just
how
to
much
make
money
it-
does-
Make
sorry,
this very
Councilor Wood.
clear, I'm not talking to this on, we can use home hardware.
No, and I was-
I don't have any
No,
idea. I
no.
did have a comment from one of your staff most recently being in there that they were very happy that in fact, if they felt, you know, often Chris will just give it to them. He doesn't even care.
Yeah.
He's willing to support. As far as I'm concerned, he's probably good that way. There's some other business in town that feel very unfairly treated. And I could understand the rationale behind their treatment and why we don't consider them. And thinking that going to Drumheller or beyond our parameters was a fair thing to do, which I think was unfair. You know, because, you know, and it's hard, like, I don't know how to explain this without, you know, making some of this without not keeping it transparent.
Yeah.
But if you I'm just gonna use a computer, for example. So if you have a certain kind of computer at this store and it's a certain dollar, and there's different comparable dollars outside of Hanna that make it more feasible to buy it out there, why you would go there, and yet you go to the higher end product. And, you know, of course, that individual or that business there is no comparables. That's what that high end product is. Doesn't matter if you go here or Drumheller and they could buy it there. So in fact, this individual gets no business at all because his product is a lower end product that is very comparable on the market. And yet he doesn't ever get an opportunity to sell that to the people.
I apologize.
Okay, well, you see.
See you later.
So, I don't know where we fit in all of this, because I think there's so many variables, with shopping local and what that looks like. And, I think the opportunity should be for our local businesses, as a municipality. Whatever that, and whether 15% is a fair margin, I'm not so sure it is. I mean, if you're comparing exact apples with apples, I mean, there's all kinds of things that come into the town office on a daily basis via, you know, transportation, email, or not email, but, whatever Danny does there. And I mean, are all considered? I mean, are all those, like all the transportation, all the rest of it, all considered in every item that you buy outside of the town limit?
I know that's one of the challenges.
Majority are.
Yeah,
So
that's one of the
Freight's
challenges
included.
that I have with my business. I incorporate my freight into my price, where a lot of places will charge $1 and then they'll have the freight charge below. So that's one of the challenges. My only concern is, and this is where, and I do this all the time, dealing with the oil and gas industry. They'll request a quote. And I have no problem quoting it, but ultimately and I've said to them, if it's under $500, I'm not wasting my time quoting. My price is my price, take it or leave it. Because by the time that person gets 3 quotes, takes it to their supervisor, they decide that that's the number that they wanna use, they call me. So then I give them a quotes, but I mean, so you've tied up a couple of individuals for 15 or 20 minutes to save $5 or $3 or $2. I understand there's lots of stuff that I look at. And I used to use my own myself, I use 15%, if I can buy it locally within 15%, that's the rule I use. But for convenience and the same thing, we need to keep the grocery stores, the Warwicks, the UFAs, the co-ops, we need to keep all of them as busy as we can. And I don't think that there's anyone gouging anyone in town on anything, and I do the pay, I go through the list. And I scroll through them, and there's stuff that, for the most part, you know, is comparable. I mean, you know, for a shovel, it'll be within $5 from one end of town to the other. So I like the policy, I don't like the policy. I have faith in our people to do their job. And.
But if the policy will help, it will help in some situations, it may hinder in some situations, because if you do put a number in place and somebody is 2% over that number, you know, then we're obligated to buy the best price we can get. And if that means somebody missed out because they were 2% above the 15 or whatever number council establishes, it can throw it can backfire at times, but it also, I know I get that question from staff is, I can buy this here local, but this is 25% more to buy it out of town or less, same product, what do I do?
Yeah, but if you have to take time.
No, but
your
everything,
time to go and pick it up.
but it's
Understand.
all delivered.
Well,
Not all of it is. That's
Well, no,
not-
but
it's
when we
not true.
consider prices, that's what we consider.
and so you consider
involved.
the delivery
Yeah.
part, the cost included with that.
Yeah,
Without disclosing some real numbers to numbers, that is not true on some circumstances, because when you actually, I've done it with a certain item, is broke it down, have staff go out of town, bring equipment back, do the job, have 4 staff there, do a day and a half to do it. In the end, I looked at the numbers. The comparables are not there. So I think that's the other thing too, is seeing all the numbers before us. It's easy to do that on a screwdriver or a hammer or a hard item. There's some other situations that that is not actually equitable across the board. So that's why I would like to.
Are you talking services or
Yes.
material?
Separate services.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. I can't remember what I was gonna say now.
About donations.
Oh, yeah, so I guess, the other thing is I think, back when, you know, when it's an emergency, when we need these businesses, when we need an opportunity to have the services, you know, these businesses are here. So in one hand, we say, your hammer's too much, we don't want it, but we have something break down, we need you at this time, certain hours, certain place after hour, we need you now. And you know what? So it's so unfair on so many levels. So we'll go after hours, we'll provide the service, we'll get you what you need.
When it's
To
convenient.
support and
Yeah.
you know what, to help you, but yet on the other hand, you said you couldn't support me because of the $7 difference, but now I could charge you $70 for the other hours. And I keep coming back to this book that Doug Griffiths. There was, several years ago that the council seconded Doug to come in and do a whole review of this community. I, at one point in time, kept track of all the numbers, all the dollar figures that were surrounded around having Doug come, having him do a community outreach, having him spend time with council, having council go away as a corporate union and spending several thousands of dollars, dialoguing about 13 ways to kill your community, not only once, but twice, and how $1 that goes around a community, affects the community on 7 times. Like $1 will affect 7 different communities. Doug talked about that in his first book. He talked
every conference still. And some of the things he talks about is not recognizing the businesses you have within your community and the people you have within your community. So sometimes when I listen, and over the years, I've listened to all of this, at a great expense to the town, I wonder sometimes what kind of value we put on our community and the people in our community and our businesses here to support the community. And I'm sorry to say, I was up to about $38,000 when I did this. That's when I stopped. Because I thought, if I'm a business and you're comparing a hammer with mine that is $7 more than somewhere else, and you're buying it there and not buying it here, and you've already spent an excess of $40,000 with something that is supposed to highly support and affect your community, then I am missing it somewhere along the way. And I know the value of what Doug brought here was it was even bigger than that. He talked about, about water and roadways and aesthetics in your community, and it was grand. But I guess the time has come when I think we need to really look at what it looks like to give back to our community as a council.
And that's what we're looking for
Yeah.
direction on, like I would be very surprised, and I know we're throwing out the word shovel and we've thrown out the word hammer, that we bought a shovel or a hammer
Yeah,
outside of
just
the,
using that for an
of the
example.
town of Hanna. Most of the smaller item stuff that is available readily is bought here, local, no questions asked. We don't even compare prices. But on some of the larger products or on the larger services, that's where, if council wants to put a policy in place that says we'll buy everything local, I have no issue with that. We're looking for that direction, whether there's what that preference is and what that preference isn't. If it's carte blanche, you're buying it from a local supplier, no matter they're 10 times the price, you're gonna buy it. Or if it's 10%, 20%, 15%, 25%, like, we're just looking for that direction from council as to what you think is acceptable for us to spend more local than outside if it's the same product.
I can make one more comment. I think it's the other thing that's really struck me odd in the last while is we will niggle on a few $1,000s of an item, and then and not to dislodge or oversee community efforts and organizations, but then we will have somebody come to the table and ask for several thousands of dollars, and we will be so generous, which I'm thankful for on a lot of levels, because we need these not-for-profits, we need these businesses and organizations here too, and we just freely give money away for no service or no input. And that has struck me very odd at this table in the last 3 years, is that, you will niggle with somebody saying, you know what, the $2,000 difference for you to do service to you to do service, but then we'll freely give out money as this community. How does this all fit into the bigger picture is my question.
Council Murphy?
So back in when Hanna was first run up to the 30s, 40s and 50s, actually probably into the 80s, it wasn't even a question. You went to Bob to pick up the thing, and you went over to Ralph, because Hanna was a community on itself, and back then there was no internet and
Walmart,
highway and
Amazon.
and these.
Less travel.
And I always
Yes.
talk about the buying power of these massive corporations, and actually even the list Mr. Chair said were what Home Hardware and Co-op, and these are all UFA, these are all franchises. And a franchise, if they're individually owned, is still individually owned, but it's still the buying power of a franchise. But you're not talking about the little stores that are just Billy's, whatever. They don't have any buying power, but they still chose to open a business in this little town, not like in the 1980s. And yeah, well, I could got that on Amazon for 80 cents less. That should be banned. No Amazon, none of those companies should ever be used by this town. The franchises that are local, absolutely, these are still local, but really work on, because if not, there isn't going to be a town here.
because it's so convenient. There are members of this community in this office that I have never seen in a grocery store. In all of the years I've been here, 13 years, I have never seen in a grocery store anything. They don't even buy groceries here. So they don't have the mindset that there's no town left if we don't stop that kind of nonsense. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Mr. Thurl?
Well, my idea is if we can buy it here locally, I agree with it, but if we have to go outside to buy specialty stuff, that's where we gotta go. It's, we need it. Locally, it's good, but there's a lot of this big stuff we can't afford to buy here, so.
Actually, I'll disagree, Mr. Thurl.
Yeah.
For example, I'll use the floor sweeper at the arena. It came in on Highway 9 and it was delivered to my shop. It's from a company that I deal with all the time. If I could have made 5% on that transaction, I'd have been very happy. I'm not critiquing, that's just one item that I
Yeah.
physically seen and I had my hand on. And it was interesting because it is a company I deal with on a weekly basis.
So the town could have just said, Mr.
Yeah, could have.
I'm interested in da-da-da.
Yeah.
And you could have.
For 5%. But you know what, I struggle with the whole. I'm with you, Counselor, we nitpick about dimes and nickels at times, but we spend thousands at times. And I think we need to maybe step back and realize, and I don't have the solution, I'm sorry, and I hate that. We have to realize what our end goal is, you know, we chisel and we, like, as Counselor Olson said, we give our staff a budget and then we, you know, critique them on how they spend that budget. You know, it's hard, it truly is. I mean, the same thing, even with perceived local businesses, so they have a shingle in town. But they're owned by, or financed by a guy in Drumheller or Calgary or Edmonton or Calgary. Is that a local business?
If they can't get fined.
I'm not, yeah, I'm just using that as an
Still
example.
operating their business.
Yeah, they're all,
There's-
no, they're
there's-
offering a business, no, you're correct.
There's a lot of, and we're not looking at you for the answer.
No, I appreciate that,
And
because
there
I don't
is
have
a
it.
lot of businesses that, work in Hanna, they do all sorts of things. And they have nobody patronizing them, but they will come to them and they will ask for donations,
Yeah.
and they've donated every year for the last 30 some years. And they have not had any visiting or any servicing. So there's people that have businesses. I'm sorry, I look like a
Yeah, no,
little,
We're good,
my volume was better.
yeah,
It's just, a little frustrating because they're expected somewhat to be donating to these, groups for them to do a raffle. Or they are, the people holding the raffle goes outside to buy their items at Costco and everything else.
Yeah.
And isn't that a slap in the face?
It is.
When that same item or those same items can be bought local or for, you know, within Delia or within, you know, some of the other suppliers within our region. But it's so important to raise that money, and isn't that grand? But they're not coming to the businesses that are there always donating and putting back into our community.
To buy the items that are.
Exactly, yeah.
so what I do with those businesses or those organizations. If they
Well, I'm
support-
not talking to you for what you, but there are businesses that are gonna say
Excuse me?
Oh
no.
my God.
Can I not voice my opinion? Because you have
And
one.
what I'm not asking for your answer on, like,
Yeah.
your.
So what I do with those scenarios, if that organization supports me, I sponsor. If they don't, I don't.
Well, that is what is going on. I realize that, and that is the decision, but, you know, there are lots of people that. They just have no idea what's going on in the local businesses, but to save $1, they'll travel. 2.5 hours, 5 hours both ways to save, you know. Something, it's just, I think we need to do more for our local businesses and where it's possible to account for all of that and consider the cost they are paying to get the supplies to build the items that they're, supplying, so that's.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just, just on the comment you made when you said, just in regards to we give our staff budget lines. Okay, that's a bit delusional to me as well. After the last meeting that we had, we give our staff budget lines, our budget is drawn out, and then we donate dollars back into our community. And then when I ask where they're coming from, they're coming out of a certain budget line in a certain department. And so my thought after that, and this will be my question at the next meeting, are those departments given way more money than they should be allocated, that all of a sudden we can just withdraw several thousands of dollars out of those departments too? So are those budget lines that strategic that there's no flexibility, I guess is my question.
No, they're not.
So then why is that a question? Why is
So
that?
there is, obviously, there is flexibility, and I've said this numerous times.
Drop a motor. of
We
the
will,
truck.
we'll budget $10,000 for repairs and maintenance on vehicles. If we have a bad string and we've had a lot of repairs and maintenance done on that item, that doesn't mean when we get to $10,000, we stop with that unit and say, no, we can't use that vacuum truck anymore because we only budgeted 10,000. There is flexibility, but I guess the bottom line is staff want to stay within the budget as best they can. In most situations, but I said, it's never gonna be an exact science. We use this as a lack of a better term, but it's a guideline in terms of what we spent. And a lot of our categories and a lot of our expenses are based and budgeted based on a 3-year history of expenses in that area. And it'll fluctuate from year to year depending on how things go. But so there is flexibility there. It's not, like I said, if we get to a point in the budget where, oh, we spent all the money in that line item, we can't do anything, we stop. We can't do that.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's,
I don't know if I got a ton of
no, you didn't.
direction, but
I'm not in favor of the 15%. I don't think it works.
If
I think it's inequitable. I'm about supporting local, I'm sorry. I mean, let's do a survey in our community and see what the people have to say. I mean, out of 15 people I had one that said, oh, I want to see the comparables. The other 15 is, well, you better be supporting local. That's it. And random people of all different calibers. I just asked for random people. And so I just really, I mean, if that's the case, then maybe we should be, yeah.
Then we can't question anything on the expenditure sheets every time. If it's not local, there's no budget then.
Even
That's
there's
the
some
rule.
stuff that are not provided locally.
And that's a different story. I mean, if we can't get a street sweeper in town, of course you can't get a street sweeper in town. It's not even up for discussion. This
But
is
there's
not
enough
available.
businesses in town who could coordinate getting that street
Oh, yes. like,
sweeper,
yeah,
that we
yes.
don't need to send
Or Mr.
employees to Costco. Ever,
we don't.
thank goodness. No Amazon, no Costco, any of those big giant, never. And work with the local distributors that are available that could get that item.
From Amazon.
Yes,
Never.
no,
That's
actually, I'm
exactly-
gonna say
But that's
something.
exactly what happens, Councilor Murphy.
So I'm gonna use an
Exactly.
example. I had a request for a tool, a specialized tool. It's a carburation tool. I checked all my normal suppliers. They were anywhere from $15 to $18. I look on Amazon, that same tool is $8.95. I ordered that tool, marked it up by 10% and sold it to the town.
There you go.
We pay Pine Ridge. You know, and that's what happens in some of those situations when it's not a product that they normally carry.
Well, I can get that, I
Yeah.
can get another tool, but it was double the cost. And for me, so Mayor Danny's looking at, well, if I could save the town $7, I'm gonna save the town $7. And so it was free shipping and it was $8 or $9, I don't recall what it was. but that's a scenario with that, I mean, and it's no different for anything I buy. I don't manufacture the cleaning products I have in the shop. I don't manufacture the pipe fittings I have in the shop. They're all bought somewhere. Same thing with Warwick's Home Hardware. They don't build or manufacture what they have in their store. It's bought, it's purchased through a group or a buy or whatever.
Jacobs, Ontario.
Yeah, or wherever it might be. So and you know, it's venture fabrication. They get their metal from Calgary or Brooks or wherever it is. You can't say that it's very convoluted when we say we're not gonna ever support Amazon, or we're not gonna support Walmart, or we're not gonna support whatever we're not going to support, because ultimately there is very little that is manufactured in town from materials that are in town. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But you're still supporting that business.
Yeah,
I don't care where they buy it.
yeah, if Counselor Kroll, that's what I'm trying to say, you
You're
know.
responsible for that tool, because depending on which one you buy on Amazon, it's from China
Yeah,
and not
oh no,
necessarily.
yeah.
But
And-
you're.
Well, I'm
you're
responsible, if
taxpaying
it's wrong, I have to send it back,
Right.
I'm responsible. to
As
fix that
opposed to
tool.
us filling out a form and trying to ship it back to the warehouse and.
Yeah.
So now we still have a local contact that's involved with it, but that's more my concern. And there's a lot of people here who, I'm going to Costco, do you need
Oh,
anything?
there's posts on Facebook just drive me nuts. I'm
I've
not
never
Costco,
been,
they need
I have
anything.
never been in my life, I try my hard, but Home Hardware, I'm there every day. I love that place, I'm there every day.
So, go ahead, Councilor.
Well, and there's places that are building things, and when they
Yeah.
make a trip in to get their metal, it is picking up their metal, picking up maybe rods and all the
Oh,
other stuff
no,
that
no.
they can
Yeah.
to keep their prices
Yeah,
competitive or even lower than the other, and there's some stuff or some, never mind. It's just.
I hear what you're
They
saying, I
do that,
understand it, yeah.
because, yeah, like reasonably, yeah, where are they gonna get it? But they are doing everything that they can, and it's cheaper for them to drive in to have it than to have it delivered. So that all goes into their pricing.
Yeah.
And to make it, you know, so there are people that are working their butts off, trying to make sure that they are taking advantage. If they have to go in to pick up stuff, they're also making all of these other stops to pick up more supplies that they need
To make it
at
worth
their
it,
shop
yeah.
that they utilize. Because.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question that's good, what you want to spot a little bit, but
perfectly fine.
even. I'm not, like, I don't know your business really, but, so you are a distributor, like when. Like people that when they order things, everything comes through you?
Yeah.
Is that?
So for example, I'll use this carburation tool. One of the town members company, our employees company, looking for a spline carburetor adjusting tool. So I go into my catalogs that I have and I find it, and then I've got several tool distributors I deal with, tell them what I'm looking for, and I find that this tool from Matco, for example, is one of those companies I deal with. This tool is $24. I'm going, okay, so I look at the tool and I'm going, geez, $24, that's a lot of money. So then I'll source it until I find a price I'm comfortable selling it to somebody for, and I'll find the best price I possibly can. And it happens all the time. And I mean, I've got it, well, I had a text just here a few minutes ago, looking for some 3mm bolts. I don't have 3mm bolts. There's no one in town that carries metric bolts, because I've researched in great detail. And so I will, when I get back to the shop, I'll order 3mm bolts for this customer for tomorrow morning.
So you're not just a distribution center, you order, see, I did not understand
Yeah.
that, but I see some advertisements once in a while, you're looking for people to pick stuff up. Is that because they send things?
So what
through
happens
your-
when I put a post on Facebook, for example, I'm the FedEx, the Purelator,
I
the
see.
DHL, the UPS
Okay.
depot. And I get quite interesting, lots of times, there's no phone number on a package, so I have no way of tracking that individual down other
Say
than
Maggie.
Maggie or
Just Maggie,
Trevor,
yeah,
Trent, or
Trevor, yeah.
Trevor's one of my favorite ones. But, so then that's when I posted on Facebook trying to find, if you know Angie Warwick, could you please let her know that she has a parcel here?
So are
that's-
you the only one in this community that does that?
Yes,
there
Yeah.
anybody else in this community
I'm the
who
only
isn't?
one.
Okay.
Aside of Canada Post.
well, and even, it's funny you mentioned that because lots of people can't send stuff to their post office box, so they'll use my address, 601A West Industrial Road, and it shows up at Canada Post. I go and pick it up, or I should say I do. My wife goes and picks it up. We bring it back to the shop. We charge $2 for handling that parcel, and they go, well, why did it go to the post office? Again, I'm not the guy that decides how it gets carried. I'm just the guy that has an address that they can ship to. And my 601A West Industrial Road works amazing for whatever reason, for getting stuff shipped. And I don't understand how, I don't profess. My favorite one, and I'm gonna just. Canada Post orders office supplies from Staples, okay? It comes on FedEx. They will not accept a FedEx package at the post office because it's a courier. So they drop it at my, yeah, it's for them. So they drop it at my shop, and when Maria goes and gets the mail, she delivers the FedEx package.
Yeah.
But that's just how,
And
that,
charges them $2.
well, we don't charge Canada Post anything, but it's,
Okay.
yeah, how are you gonna collect from Canada Post?
Yeah.
So, but
Okay, thank
it's,
you. I
it's
just
such a
wanted to-
convoluted thing that we do and. Yeah,
So if council's okay, we'll try and draft something.
I think that's something.
And at least you'll have something tangible in writing. I think we're not necessarily on consensus, but we'll put something together in writing. You guys can have a chance to look at it and go, we like this, we like this, we like this, we don't like this, and then work off of that document for lack of moving this forward.
Beautiful.
I think the big thing is probably staff going to Amazon and buying stuff, like, you know what I mean, like.
we
in
haven't
your
had that for
office
quite a
or
while.
whatever. You know, I mean,
It's very rare. It's only when we can't find it here.
but I mean, if there is a comparable that is available, that should definitely be buttered up, you know.
No, 100%. And that's, like I said, if you look at our accounts payable, you will see the odd one there, but you won't see very often.
Lots of local, lots of local.
I would say probably. On consumables, I would say 95 to 97% is a lot local. If not more.
A significant amount. Okay, so we'll,
I'm talking about service and goods.
yeah.
Roundtable. So this weekend.
Need a motion to.
Oh, sorry,
accept the purchasing
accept the
policy.
purchasing policy, Councilor Warwick. All in favor? Carried. So this weekend, we got into a text for a little bit and it came out that my mayor's message is. I don't know how to word it, I guess being misconstrued that you can only come and talk to the mayor. The mayor's message is I am the base of council. I'm the one that has to. Put my mugshot on a thing. I'm the one that writes, wordsmiths the letter a little bit. Kim does most of it. What would you like me to say on there? Would you like me to, you're more than welcome to reach out to council, because if that's what you want, I'm not opposed to doing that.
Since I was the guilty party with, bringing that up, yeah, I think for a lot of people that aren't aware of, who to contact, who to approach when they have concerns, I think it would be nice to, also include council in there. I think in your message, you're speaking on behalf of council.
Yeah.
As it is, and so then it kind of lets people know too that council is somewhat supportive, that we're operating as a team and not just one individual making the decisions, because it is a collective decision-making
Yeah.
situation.
I find it interesting because I get, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 people a week that come with an issue where most of you get a lot more feedback than I do, but I have no problem. I can tag council into my message and, yeah.
Well, I think it would just. give
Mr.
you-
Mayor, actually, I had a comment too about that, just about in regards to the state, and I can't remember, because I did make note of it somewhere, but I can't remember, but
I also did make note at our town council meeting on February 13th, and I was gonna address you with this, but you corrected our CEO and saying that that meeting, he used a terminology that said the mayor, and you, or said the CAO and staff, and you said it's our, meaning corporate. And I at that point in time, I thought we need to address the advertisements that go out too, that, you know what, even though you are the mayor, you've been elected as the mayor. I think it is upon us that, you know what, that our community could talk to anybody, mayor or council,
Yeah.
at any point in time.
I think for the most part, we're pretty good already that way, like, I mean, but I mean, it's for clarification.
No, and
I think it's
since
just wording in
Well,
there that just was, because
100%.
it did say.
Dan was,
you know,
Mayor Pavichuk was very upfront when he became mayor, and we've been doing mayor's message for as long as I've been here. And that was something Mayor Pavichuk said he wanted included in his mayor's message, was that he was open, willing, able to speak. Anyone who wanted to bring concern, certainly the intention isn't that you can't speak to anybody else. It was just, he wanted that to be known. We certainly can change that phrasing to say mayor and all council members are willing and able to listen to any concerns or issues you may have. Please feel free to approach them. If that kind of answers that question, we're certainly, I think.
Well, inclusivity has been a part of the century, so I think at every level, you know, the inclusiveness is, speaks a lot to, a body, a governing body.
Well, and given that platform with that letter, you know, each council doesn't have their own platform to go ahead and put that out. It just, I think it just shows that we're all in it together, sort of thing.
And
I
I
would
can,
appreciate it.
mayor can correct me if I'm wrong, but from day one, there was never any intention
Oh, no,
to
no.
exclude
No.
council from it. It was his message, and he just wanted, that was one of the things he wanted people to feel comfortable approaching him.
I thought he was mad at me.
No.
I'm just kidding.
So we can certainly
If I'm
change
mad
that,
at you, he'll know.
we can certainly change that phrasing for
Yeah.
the next messages. That's certainly not an issue.
I liked your last comment, Sarah. When you picked it.
Yeah,
And so
Spring this year.
is this still open?
yeah, we're still round tabling.
I just had a, information that I wanted to share. There's an internationally educated nurse coming to the Hanna, hospital and is needing assistance in finding a place to stay. And so, yeah, if anybody has some sort of, place where they can stay that's near the hospital, that'd be great. I think they did find, actually, it's, furnishings is what they're looking for. And that, would be appreciated if there is any furnishings
Is
that,
she coming along?
June 19th.
So she needs furnishings or somewhere to stay.
I'm sorry, it is, HS did find housing, but, it is, the only hiccup they said is it's not furnished. And so they are looking for furnishings. My apologies.
Okay.
Hoping their community members, would be willing to and able to assist. Noted that looking at donations is also an option. Require coordinated community, and would not be ideal for larger items like bed frames on our tight time frame. And she's expected to arrive June 19th. So it sounds like, linens and maybe things along that household goods, I guess.
Put a call out on Facebook, you'll have it within 24
I was
hours.
gonna say.
But this is one of my pet peeves.
Yeah,
So Alberta Health Services, that's their organization, that's their business.
Yeah.
When they're bringing nurses in, whether they're student out of university who's moving here, they have an expectation that they should accommodate that employee through the process. Like if we were hiring someone for the town of Hanna that needed help moving in and needed stuff, I would not reach out to.
Alberta Health Services.
I would be saying, okay, we're gonna help this person move in, it's an employee, we're gonna gather as an organization and we're gonna make this happen, and that's where my pet peeve with HS is, Well, got somebody coming. Can you guys take care of them? We're out of it now.
That's our
and
job, we got them.
It's their employee, it's their business that they need to step
Hire
up.
somebody local that's already got.
Well, it already has the training, so.
So,
whoever
but it,
that is,
but
and
it
put
could
that
be
out there,
someone
they can
else,
reach out on
Councilor
social
Pro.
media.
It could be someone
That
moving
is,
here who's a university student who's gonna
RPAL.
be an HS employee. They just say, oh, go find it, they just don't provide them that support to.
Drive past and Highway 9,
Successful.
open the door and.
Let 'em
Hi,
out,
welcome.
If they need a place that's furnished and ready to move in, I have a place. for
Yeah.
them. But if
This
they
is
want-
coming from rural community consultant, the East Central Rural Health Professions Actions Plan. So,
Interesting.
you have that. You can contact one of them.
Okay, so any more roundtable?
Not doing any extra.
Hearing
work.
none, thank you.
Hold on, I just wanted to make sure I did put on your desk, the seniors week.
Yeah,
So everybody has an idea what's happening that week, when the events are and.
I won't be attending the mayor's, I'm in Edmonton with my mom and her appointment.
Okay.
it
Yeah,
was
that's coming
actually,
fast, that's next
yeah.
week, isn't it?
it was actually interesting, Councilor Warwick. I took a picture of this and sent it to the museum group while we were sitting
I
here.
was gonna phone Larry right after this,
Yeah.
'cause he asked me to donate a bunch of stuff, and I was like,
Yeah.
boy, do I have a job for you.
Yeah.
You can come right to the town and get your donations.
And I do have to make a disclosure that I do buy at Costco. I don't make a separate trip to go there. I'll be going to Edmonton and doing some stuff. Because
Personal.
I can get certain things and I will not support a business who does not have good service, is not, contributing to the community and that sort of thing. So, just because a business is in town doesn't necessarily mean that I have to patronize them. It is, based on their performance as well. So,
Well, I don't want to open a discussion. How does that not applicable then to municipality? If there's a business they've dealt with and haven't had a good
That's the
experience,
same, yeah.
It's
It
the
should be the same.
difficult part, Counselor Olson,
but it's a
the
personal.
difficult part. That puts our staff in position, if we've had a bad experience with a local business or a local business owner. And the expectation is you're still gonna buy there. It's tough, right? It's
Yeah.
tough. You as an individual make that decision. It's hard when you get into the areas where we don't think they're provide as much support or
It
they
doesn't
don't do
matter
it
if
as
you're
well.
working for corporate union. There's sometimes when you work for organizations, you don't like people, but you have to suck it up.
But if
There's
they provided
employees of
bad.
ours that don't like to service certain people because they're not nice to them either. But while you're in our business and our corporation, that is the way business is done. You know what, if you have staff that doesn't like certain business people, that unfortunately, I'm sorry, but that
But if
is.
they've provided bad service
Yeah, personality aside, it's
Yeah.
bad service.
Right.
or no service,
Yeah, but, or if they've never taken anything to them because they don't like the person, I know that goes on as well, and so, and they've had no
Be
reason
very
to
careful
question that.
about that.
so
And
that's a
Yeah,
different
that's-
situation than
Yeah.
bad service.
Okay, any other roundtable? Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. It was good. Lots of discussion. See you all, well, see the ones that can get there for the garden party and the ones that can't, we'll plug through it. See you next,
What are we saying?
Tuesday.
the 11th.
Wednesday, 11th.
The 11th. I'm not brave enough to put a date on closer work. I just said whatever next Wednesday.
So if anybody wants to look, these are some of the pictures that are up there that were at the open house last night. We're gonna put them, I think we're gonna try and put them as best we can in the lobby as people are coming in, they can see them, they might have questions, just create some more awareness, so.
What about the community center, or not the community center, Centennial Place? That seems to have a lot of traffic through there.
That's another option. I was thinking too, when we said this, it might be something at the mayor's garden party that we have.
For sure, yeah.
And people are coming
Once you
in,
get to be my age, Andy.
they might have questions or wanna.
Yeah, when I get to Kyle's age,
Those are just some examples
I was
of,
gonna say, where's the Oasis Market? Yeah.
yeah, that's not Hanna. But that's what you can expect it will look like.
I actually reached out to Crossfield because they did their own thing. Sundry right now, you're gonna love Sundry.